Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, episode number 198. And we're off to a crazy, getting closer, a crazy morning, and here we are.
Yeah. We wanted to start 20 minutes ago, but of course, technical issues kept us from starting because it was Echo Central on Dave's end.
It was so bad. I'm pretty patient about having to deal with audio issues and things like that just for the sake of the show, because I always wanted the show to go on for as long as it can for the duration, because we'll get to that other wrenching situation in a moment. And but so we knew that we were going to have a late start, or an early finish, I should say. Then this happened, and I was really trying to be patient, but she was talking like this is how I try to deal with someone.
Worse than normal.
That's how Christian was talking. I know, right? He was fucking stroking out the entire time instead of 15%, So, I tried. I'm like, there's no way. So I did this. We did that. I completely gave my Skype, the dreaded Skype update, which we fear. But it had to be done, and somehow it worked. So, but hopefully our days of Skype are numbered. That's all I can say.
Well, we keep saying it, and we never take the plunge. But yes, we should Zoom. There's so many other options now. Fuck Skype. I hope you're listening, Skype. Fuck you.
It's like Facebook or something. Be careful what you say. Or Meta, whatever the fuck. Is it Meta or is it Facebook now?
It's Meta's the company. That company owns Facebook, Instagram, the Quest 2, Oculus, or whatever the fuck it is, the Oculus system, the virtual reality. That's like the parent company at the very least.
So does the guy Zuckerberg, whatever the fuck his name is, does he own all of that, or does he just own Facebook?
No, he owns all of it.
So this guy got filthy rich just by coming up with some type of computer program where fucking people can share pictures and talk to each other.
Yeah. And if you ever watch The Social Network, essentially he ripped it off. He had an idea floating around in his head, but some people came up to him, and I think there was another thing out there already called Classmates or something. I could be wrong.
I know. I heard of Classmates.
I don't fucking know. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they came up with something just to share at Harvard. And whatever. I think what Zuckerberg had was like a rate the girl, hot or not type thing. It was actually pretty mean spirited because I guess he couldn't get laid or whatever. Again, I'm paraphrasing. Don't rake me over the coals, everybody. But ultimately, some two guys approached him to create something because they knew he was like this sort of techno wizard, aka nerd. Nerds.
Wow, I was just thinking about nerds in the shower just a little bit ago.
What nerds in the shower?
Well, let me tell you why. I don't know why.
Suspiria.
This is I wasn't thinking about nerds themselves, and I was thinking about, and I don't know why, but I was thinking about that part in Nerds at the end when they're singing "We Are the Champions" and they go into the Canadian chorus version. Yeah, and I was thinking this in the shower. I don't know why.
The Canadian chorus.
We are the champions. Why went to the Canadian chorus? I'll never know.
That's why it resonated so well with me back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That and We Got Bush. We got Bush.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you could never make this movie nowadays. It would just not work. In fact, I was watching Once Bitten like last week. I'd never seen it. I thought I had. I'd never seen that movie. It was cute. It was okay. Again, that's a movie that you had to watch back in the day to have the nostalgic attachment that if you love it to this day, like I do with like Last American Virgin or a lot of those other movies or whatever. I think it just has to be it. It was passable. I don't never have to watch it again. But there are scenes in that movie.
I liked it.
There is no way you can get away with today. Like when they're in the shower with Jim Carrey, and then the girl's like, you got to check to see if he's got the bite down there or whatever. So they're all trying to, casually look. They're all naked, and they're casually trying to look to see if he's bit down by the, the groin area. And all of a sudden it gets so bad they can't see that they start grabbing him and lifting him up. And they're like, what the hell? And these other guys turn around. And again, I'm quoting the movie, everybody. So like, all of a sudden, everybody's like, fags in the shower, fags in the shower, fags in the shower. They all run out like they're scared to death. And I'm like, wow, you can't get away with this nowadays. People, my daughter, if I showed this to my oldest daughter, she would be like, Dad, turn this movie off. Like, it's a different mentality. There's no way they can. I don't even think they can put themselves into it with a different time and place. It just would not work. And listen, I didn't write the script, But
Well,
I did
yeah.
chuckle. I did chuckle at the scene.
Well, you hear that word all the time on shows, even stuff modern that takes place in the old days. Like if you watch American Horror Story, especially the last season, you're going to see tons of homophobic slurs, and it's always there. It's still there. It's just not in the media, but they are still in like high schools and things. At least according to what my daughter tells me. And the funny thing is, it doesn't strike my daughter as odd, and it doesn't like what do you call it? It doesn't offend her. But the funny thing is this: my daughter may or may not be gay. This is something.
Same with my oldest daughter. May or may not. I mean,
okay.
I think she's trying to figure it all out.
But and this is something that you know, my wife has said, and there was things going on earlier, but you pass that off as being very young, and you know, just whatever. It's different. But may or may not. I don't know, and I don't care. It's like I always tell my wife. I said I don't care. All I want, and I've said this since the day she was born, I want her to be happy. What do I want her to be when she's grown up? I don't care if she went to college, if she did this. Of course I care, but I care more about her happiness.
Like extremes. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
My wife insisted, okay, college, this and this, you have to have this. And I said, all I want my daughter to be when she grows up is happy. That's it. So I don't care what it takes, unless she's not, you know, has a bad drug addict or a gambling addict, then you're not really happy. But that's what I'm saying. Just be happy. So, and of course, there's no reason for me to be homophobic anyway, so I'm not. But I'm just saying, the funny thing about my daughter is she's so casual like me that type of humor and that type of stuff going on, even though her friends are one way and she may be one way, to her, like she's like me, nothing offends her. She gets more mad at cancel culture for people getting upset about the most innocent things than anything, and she herself may end up being on that team. If only everybody else.
Different. Everybody's different. Again, cancel culture probably. I mean, it stems from a variety of different areas and avenues and whatever. So just like politics, just like kind of every belief, religion, whatever, it's subject. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. So it doesn't really matter, gay, straight, trans, whatever, black, white, like religious, not religious. You're gonna have your own stance based on what you think, and that's just the reality of it. But my middle daughter, the one that the horror fanatic one, she wouldn't have cared. She may have even laughed at the scene too, and not really thought anything of it because she thinks of it as a sign of the times, right, wrong, whatever. The reality of it. So it's just interesting. My son, I don't know. I think because he's still at that age where he kind of questions like, should I be laughing at this? I'm like, if it's funny to you, laugh. I mean, but what you need to know is why are you laughing and realize that things have changed and this is the reality of it, and don't be a dick in real life. Done. I mean, at the end of the story. Yeah.
And don't double talk and don't contradict, because I just thought of something. Have you ever seen? And again, I don't really go down the feeds that much and everything else. But in the past, I could see I saw more. See, basically, I've unfollowed everybody that talks either side about anything serious. Period. I don't care, even if my views agree with. If I agree with your views on that topic, I don't want to hear it on social media. So if I'm on and you talk anything topical, I immediately unfollow you. That's all I do. That is all I do. So, this is what I used to notice. People don't have a problem making fun of people who believe in God. That's okay in their eyes, but you can't make fun of their sexual orientation. To me, that's a double standard. That's really unfair. Don't make somebody who happens to be a believer in God or something. Don't make a post. Oh, make sure you do this, or the magical God in the sky will judge you. They do it in a condescending way.
It's just as bad. We've talked about it on the show, and if we have it, it's just as bad as someone trying to force religion down your throat, to force their beliefs down your throat about being an atheist or whatever the fuck they think they are. Whatever, and I don't care. Just stop shoving it down my fucking throat. That's what I care about.
Correct.
Right? Like either side. I don't want to hear about Jesus. I don't want to hear about your hate for Jesus. I don't care what you think.
Stop antagonizing. Stop antagonizing. That's what they do. Because then you can't say, "Oh, I'm going to antagonize you all you want because you're this. You deserve to be messed with." But if you say something that offends me, it's the end of the world. That's the issue. You know.
And just so you're aware, for marketing purposes of the show, it's now called the Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, the pro-life podcast. I just want to make sure we alienate half the audience at the very least.
I will tell you this. I would label it whatever it needed to be to get more listens.
I wouldn't. That's just as bad because we're just pandering to the thing. At the end of the day, I just said that as a joke. I mean, I could have gone the other way and say the pro-choice, whatever. At the end of the day, again.
Okay.
Not my argument.
Would you put a gay horror podcast at the end of your thing just to get ears on it? Because if it's gay, people might listen to it more. Yeah. Exploding Heads gay horror podcast. If I knew for a fact that we get picked up by like some company or something because we have a gay
magazine.
Gimmick, whatever.
See, I don't know because again, I feel like then we're just a bunch of phonies. That's true. That's the reality of it, and I don't think I know you're doing it for marketing purposes, but just for that fact alone, I think that we piss off a whole like, hey guys, come on, you're not part of the crusade.
Yeah, I know.
Because everything's a crusade all of a sudden.
I'm just always looking for some angle.
No, I know. We've talked about it on the show before. Maybe suck a dick now and then maybe we can put that there. If you can do that, then I have no problem with it.
Hell, I do it on Patreon. Maybe twice a year. I would do it.
It's easy. It's easy.
Depends on how much money you're talking.
I feel like, and I'm sure you think like we can make this argument. We can make this argument for women as well, but being a guy, it's gross, man. Like the balls are sweaty. Your dick is stuck to like one side or whatever. Like I don't even want to be around my own dick. Like I've said.
Sometimes I don't. You're right.
Yeah.
I hear you.
But for a couple of minutes a day, no problem.
For the right amount of money, anything is possible. I'm just saying, it's like I got a price.
Everything. I love that about you though. Like I draw the line in the sand. I'll be dick and balls in my mouth for this amount of money.
Well, so be it. Why not? People can do, what do you call it? Pornography and everything else, and nobody cares. Someone's paying them to do something. The only difference between prostitution and pornography is instead of somebody paying you to fuck them, somebody else is paying you to fuck somebody else. I mean,
I know, but I feel like I need to at least be like wanting to do it. And again, this is not like homophobic or anything like that. There's no interest, not an interest in the world. So again, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't like now. Someone said, I guess it's.
Do you want to go to work every day?
No, but I mean, like, that's what we're talking. What are we talking about?
You do it for money.
To be honest, like, yeah, like it's $1 million the cutoff point. It's 500,000. It's 2 million, 10 million. What amount would make me say, okay, sure, dick it up? I don't know.
I'd suck a dick a month. One dick a month for a measly fucking $1,000 each month. $12,000 more a year. A dick a month I would suck. That's how fucked up I am. And believe me, and I'm not even gay. If I was, I wouldn't even have a problem telling you.
There's a new Patriot perk, everybody. Put that here. Dave sucks a dick a month for $1,000.
I don't want nothing in my mouth though.
Do I get a cut of that though?
Yeah, I guess you'd have to. You get a percent. I don't want anything in my mouth. I don't want to come in my mouth though. That's where I draw the line. See what I'm saying? Suck a dick is one thing, but they got to blow it someplace else. Anywhere, just not in my mouth. Hair? Yeah. So be it. Wash it out. Who gives a fuck? That's no big deal.
They put their initials on your forehead or something. I don't know. Like, I mean, there's so many options nowadays.
But I'm telling you,
it's just something new.
I'm not one bit gay. I'm not saying this and if I were, I wouldn't have a problem saying it because who gives a fuck? Like, I could tell my wife, oh, well, I identify 80% fucking straight, 10%, 20% bisexual or something, or 80% male or female attractiveness, 20%. It's not like that at all. I'm not attracted to males in that way.
Yeah.
Never have been. However,
I'm attracted to money.
That's what I'm saying. I would rather do that than work a real job. Seriously, I would rather jerk off on camera every day if I could. If there was an audience for it, and I could have like a what do you call GoFundMe? Not a GoFundMe.
There's got to be an audience for it. Not necessarily you just jerking off in general.
OnlyFans. I would do an OnlyFans, and that would be my only job. If I knew I could bring home what I'm bringing home now, just to jerk off on why the fuck wouldn't I? I don't understand why you wouldn't. Nor do I condemn anyone that does it. If I was a female now, some of them are making a whole lot of money just doing stupid shit on the computer because guys are fucked. And now, are they going to be that attractive forever? Are they going to be able to maintain that lifestyle in 20 years? More than likely not. They're going to have to either save their money and not do anything stupid and be real smart with it, or they're gonna have to transition to something else someday. But while you're young and while you're very attractive, right on, do it. If you were a college student, that's a smart way to make money, as far as I'm concerned. You don't got to leave the house. You could be doing your college work in your fucking dorm or wherever at home.
Yeah.
Stop for half an hour. I gotta go on my OnlyFans.
As long as you realize that's gonna live on forever. It never disappears. You've made that decision. So right. The downfall is you make that decision at age 18, 19, or whatever it may be, and then suddenly you're stuck with that. You've changed your ways 6, 7 years later, 10 years later. You're like, well, a different mindset. Unfortunately, the reality of the way everything works nowadays is that's out there. That's always going to be out there. It's just going to be bogged down by the fact that there's way more out there, but It's always going to be out there. So you just have to be confident and comfortable in the fact that that decision is there forever. I guess like any decision in your life, but that it depends on how much weight you put on it. Like, I don't necessarily know if I need my dick out there for everybody to see. Maybe I'm not as proud of it as you are or whatever. Like, you know, well, I could pose, and as long as I get to prep it up a little bit, be very sure, no problem. Well, woke up this way, you know, one of those selfies.
Right.
But ultimately, if you know, you just catch me coming out of, if it's Costanza style, you know, I might be a little like weary for that to get out there.
That's true. That's true, and I'm not going to get into particulars, but you know, it doesn't. As soon as you pull your pants down, I can tell you right now. As soon as I pull my pants down, it's not ready to be viewed. You know what I mean? I don't want to show it in that.
I said this earlier. How did we get here, Dave?
I don't know.
How did we get this conversation?
Let's talk about drama. No,
it's crazy. Well, it started with Facebook. Now we're talking about cockbook. But right. To answer your question, I think he got approached by 2 people. They wanted him to do something like Classmates for Harvard, and he took it and ran with it and called it the Facebook, or something called something else then, and then the Facebook. And that's the rest is history. He got sued and cleared, and he's
He created Hot or Not as well?
I don't know if I think that was what evolved from it way later.
I used to go on that site. I used to love that.
Again,
see pretty pictures. You know.
Maybe it was him. Maybe that was him. It was something like that. And maybe they reference it in the movie. I've seen the movie 2 or 3 times. I figure I remember it.
I own it. It's David Fincher, and I want to say that Reznor did the fucking soundtrack.
Reznor did do the soundtrack, yeah.
Right. I think it was one of the first ones he did. So you would think I would have seen it, and I still haven't. It's been sitting on my shelf. It's just when I think about David Fincher and everything else he's done, everything seems to have an edge to it or something that really intrigues me, and that seems like a movie that fucking anybody can make. So it just has drawn.
But I think it succeeds more because of the writing and in this case the directing as well. I think he does his thumbprints on it, maybe not to the same extent as some of his thrillers, but I think it still works because he's always interesting to watch. His movies always intrigue.
You know what's funny? I was just thinking of this. Our conversation is like a fucking when Fish performs a song at a concert. I'll tell you why.
Oh, here we go.
Hold on now. This is what happens with Fish when they decide to fucking jam out a song like that they usually don't, or they really go deep with it. They'll start off like our conversation started off with Facebook, okay, in Zuckerberg or Zuckerman, okay, and led into all this other stuff, and then we brought it back to Zuckerberg and Facebook again at the end. It was the same conversation. That's like what a Fish jam is. It starts off verse, chorus, verse. Then it goes off and jam into some experimental shit for a while, and they go crazy. And then you hear the chords come in, and the drum leads it in, and then you know the song itself is coming back to where it started. And then
so the drummer's like me. He's getting sick of the fucking. He's like, okay, let's get the fuck back on track.
Well, you know, drummers lead the jam session. They follow the drummer's lead in live performances. That's just what it is. But you'll hear the chords coming back and the progression, and then you'll hear the applause. You know, for the jam that just happened and for returning back to the fucking song we all love. That's what that reminded me of. Isn't that weird that popped into my head? But that's a way to explain a Fish jam, I suppose. Is that's what'll happen. You go off, you experiment, you have some fun over here. You never know where it's gonna go. It could be crazy. It could just be a very basic conversation that is it goes off the rails for a few minutes, or it could go fucking into 15 minutes of fucking mayhem. Who knows? That's what's great about shit like that. And the show.
Well, I think I think if we have the people that listen now, the people that interact with us and continue and stick with the show, I think if they didn't like this, they would have been long gone. They would have been like that guy after the Purge reviews. He was like, I'm out. I don't know what they were hanging on by a thread, and then the Purge reviews is what threw him over, and he was gone. And I'm like, well, that guy. Of all things, we talked about shit. You talked about mud flapping, but the Purge reviews is what made him leave.
Was that before the Purge?
Fuck him and his family. I don't even know who he is.
Well, hold on, because we're getting to that point now. Because somebody made a comment recently. It's someone.
Oh, he's back. Love you and your family. I'm sorry.
Somebody made a comment recently in the regular page because about the regular feed, not the Patreon. How the shows are coming over now, and somebody made a comment about how they loved hearing the talk about some of the topics in the BS conversation.
Yes, thank God.
Having the BSing. And I'm like, well, if you love that, I go stick around because you're only gonna hear more of it as time goes on. Of course, maybe. Yeah. That's going to turn somebody into wanting to join the Patreon. They're going to hear the style that we do now, and they're going to say, oh, so they bullshit for an hour or so and then do movies, and the bullshit is okay.
You're right. We said, I was always worried. I always said, like patrons, you've been here since the beginning for the most part, or you've joined and got into the groove and seem to like it. Or if you don't like it, you haven't told us, and you haven't really left. And I guess you can leave. Some people leave and come back and whatever, and they'll say we'll be back or whatever. So you never really know if anybody's just done with it. But I was always worried. I'm like, I don't know, are we gonna get new people? When one of the thumb nails of the episode art was just a shit emoji because it was a BS show. I'm like, this is gonna be the tipping point. Are people gonna join or not? Because really what happened was some of that BS show, we were doing them more consistently, and then we just got more into just reviewing movies more regularly, because why not be BS at the beginning and do more reviews? But there's some shows that were just total BS, and I was worried that stemmed from the bonus episode. When it was 2 shows and a bonus episode, 2 shows and a bonus, and that bonus turned into a BS show.
Right, and now
bonus show BS.
Wow, BS times 2 squared. Yeah. So now look at us. Now we're on a shortened show today. Now we're only going to BS for an hour or something, as opposed to our normal more, and then we'll save an hour for reviews, because that's like a safe thing. 30-minute reviews.
And why are we?
You want to get into this
today? Holy fuck. My wife got COVID again. She got it from work.
Can't blame her.
She got it at work. Well, her boss tested positive on Thursday. So on Friday, she went in early. It was already too late because it already happened. It happened early, and then he came in. She went in early. I got distracted because she just texted me. She went early, left, and then he came in to finish off the day and whatever. And in the office that they're in, there's a bunch of them, so I'm sure they all have fucking COVID now. But that's how they kind of scheduled it so he could still go to work. So I'm like, oh, you're getting it, because you guys are in close, like it's a small office for the amount, like for 4 or 5 people that are there inside that area. Long story short, she tested negatively, no problem. I'm not telling the story well at all. I apologize, everybody. Tested positive last night.
Oh.
Last night, she's like, she came down to dinner, and I'm like, I'm not going to say a word because no one likes to come down for dinner. She's all dressed up, but looking nice and whatever she looks like. Like, when someone just looks like they're sick. And I didn't want to say a thing. So we're eating dinner there, and she's like, I'm not feeling that great. I'm like, yeah, you don't look that great. At that point, it felt okay. I could say it and not feel like I'm gonna get punched in the gut. And she's like, oh, thanks. And then she goes, I think I'm gonna go lay down for a bit. Laid down, got up, took the test, positive. So I'm not gonna lie now. I don't know if it's hypochondria seeping in.
Hey.
But I'm not feeling top notch. I'm more stuffy than usual and whatever. But I'm worried. I'm thinking it's just me being me. And now I know my wife's got it, and thinking. But again, we've been in close proximity as well. So I'm like, here we go again. Just when I don't hear COVID shit anymore. It's not even on the news, thank God, anymore. And whatever. And I know we knew this was what was going to happen. So we're going to just have a cold or a flu or whatever. And hopefully that's it. And I'll be here next week, but that's it. Well, but I don't have anything yet. I just could feel, I'm like, uh-oh. So I just don't know if this is me being, like I said, me being me, because I projected on me. I'm like, am I not feeling good? Am I okay?
Dude.
Is this a fever?
That
I don't know.
happened to me. I get you. I get you. I think that too, and I'm the same way because I'm petrified of it. But so is she fully vaxxed and everything else boosted?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
whole
yeah.
nine?
Yeah, we never did like we did the two and then the one booster, and then when they were introducing a fourth booster, we said we're okay.
Enough
We've
is
done what we
enough.
think we
Okay.
need to do, and then we had it last year. We had it at Easter of last year. That's when we got it, and then we've been fine. Ever since. And then she just tested positive now, so we'll
See,
see.
dude, who knows?
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
knows? And now this is the thing. Everybody's dropping from these cardiac arrests and having cardiac arrests and of all ages and everything. Lisa Marie Presley, rest in peace. That just happened. Other things. There's so many people and there's this big theory out. But here's the thing. Of course, they're only looking at it from one side. People are looking at it and they're saying this is a result of the vaccine. This is what the vaccine has done to you. Because I will say this: there is a record amount of people dropping all of a sudden at young ages from freaking cardiac arrest and all this. It's never happened before. So it's something there's something to chew on there. But this is what I say: how do we know that it's from the vaccines? How do we know it's not after effects of COVID? Because I've been saying this the whole time. I said it. I go, how do we know that? And I said this 2 years ago. How do we know that 10 years from now we're not just going to drop dead? And that's what COVID is. That's something.
But this is what we don't know. And everybody, all the anti-vaxxers,
right,
are going to blame that the vaccines and all the or not even anti-vaxxers, just some people that have figured out as time's gone on.
But
wait
that's
a second,
what
maybe we jumped the gun or jumped too quickly, and now I'm an anti-vaxxer, or now I'm not again, I'm not anti-vax. I just don't feel like I need the fourth dose. I did what I needed to do. I feel like I'm generally healthy. And hey, maybe I could be wrong because we'll see what happens. And maybe Carrie wouldn't have gotten it. Who knows? But how severe is it going to be? At the end of the day, how severe is it going to be? I think we've gone through the crazy part, and knock on wood, it's not severe. But I mean, I didn't think I'd ever be talking about this again. To be totally, let me rephrase that. I didn't think I'd be talking about it anytime soon. I know we've talked that it's never going away. We know that. Yeah. But the reason for the short show, though, is not just because she's got COVID, but we've got stuff to do in the sense of like my son who doesn't have it has stuff he needs to get to and whatever. So wait it's up to me.
He's allowed to leave the house while someone he's living with has COVID?
Well, it's different now, is it not? Like, I mean, who knows the fucking rules anymore? I thought it was only if someone was sick. If someone was sick,
I thought if you live with somebody that's exhibiting signs of COVID, you're supposed to fucking self-isolate. Well, I mean, I don't know.
I thought that was what it was back in the day. I thought that's all changed. I figured they figure to be safe, you should. And we were following those rules to a T before. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we shouldn't be going anywhere. And like I said, if I'm taking them, like I don't know if I'm fine yet. So well, dude, it's kind of true. But
why would it change? And why should? I know you got to live life, but if people know how contagious, if her boss at work got it, and then everybody at work got it. Why would it change? Why should the rules be changed?
Yeah, you're right.
Doesn't make any sense to me that they would. Honestly, I'm a parent. Well, okay, I'm a slight paranoia. There's slight paranoia with me because of how bad I got it, and I'm afraid of fucking it happening again. I don't know if my brain's ever going to be the same, and I don't know what it's going to cost me in the future. But as far as vax and not vax, I don't know where I stand. I'm probably not going to get them anymore, but I also don't think that vax is necessarily the reason people are having cardiac arrest. I think it could be after effects of COVID. I go, you can't just automatically jump to its vaccines. Why don't you research the person and say, A, did they get vaccinated? And B, did they have COVID? Now, if the results come back and everybody says, oh, well, if it becomes unanimous one over the other, then you have a case where you can discuss it. But everyone it's so funny how much the anti-vaxxers automatically they just jumped right to, that was their immediate thing. Oh, it's because she got vaccinated. I mean, you go right to it without even thinking. That's the problem with people and their mentality, and that's why both sides suck. But anyway, let's get back to you.
Anybody that has a heart attack now is fucking because of vaccines. Does anybody know if she had vaccines?
That's what I'm trying to say. How could they? You can't just go right. You think Lisa Marie Presley, when that happened, everybody was jumping aboard saying, oh, or, Hamlin, the player from the Bills. Do you think because he's in the NFL, I think he had to have a vax. So that's something. But did anyone say, hey, did he have COVID too? Or not? But Lisa Marie, how would anybody know within like freaking 10 hours of her death whether or not she'd been vaccinated or not? How do you know? I don't know. Maybe she was outspoken about it, and this is a thing I don't know about. I have no idea. But for people to go right to things like that just shows you the scary herd mentality that we have. And I don't want to get on a whole thing again. But just people listening, just think about that. Is it that important to push an agenda? Just think about things from all sides. Yeah. That's all. I mean, Come on.
Yeah.
Like
now,
me,
now
I'll
you
take a
got me.
pill and
Like I was thinking, well, when we were coming up with this whole plan, I was not. It was last night. I was feeling fine and whatever. And I just said, okay, well, you stay in bed. So my wife's in our room, like pretty much. I pretty much duct tape the door shut, so that she can't get out. I'm joking. I'm kidding. But she's there. She's well taken care of. She's got a washroom. She's got a TV. And
Right.
every now and then I throw a thing of fish heads to eat for food.
Fucking
I'm kidding. This
fish
all
heads.
happened within the last 15 hours. So anyway, she's fine. But we've got
Thank
that.
goodness.
That was what I was thinking of. Like, I'll take him out. But you're right. I wasn't really thinking that's probably not really the smartest idea. So.
Well, let me tell you why I'm very nervous
won't.
about it. See, and this stems from me here, because my mother, she's battled cancer this past year, and she's done all this other stuff, and she has all this stuff going on. She has these very strong pills. Now she's in Florida now. Luckily, the news she got last time was that these pills were doing what they were supposed to do, and she was able to go to Florida. She's got to check in, but that's a whole long story and a whole other thing. But since she's got this diagnosis, we over here, any little thing at all, like Frankie or anybody has a cold or a sniffle, before there's even a COVID thought, it's just like, well, if somebody is exhibiting signs of something like that, don't go around your grandmother because her immune system is down. She has cancer. You got to take this stuff seriously. And of course, there's my father who's 84 years old. He's elderly. I mean, not that my mother's a spring chicken. She's 74. But I'm just saying, add the cancer to the mix. So my mentality is this. We're very careful about that, so that's just how I think about it. When somebody exhibits something, hey man, watch out. But now, COVID being as contagious as it is, and by the way, they say that the new strain, which it's supposed to be out of control, because I talked to my friends in Vegas, and my buddies told me the other day, he goes, oh dude, he goes fucking with what do you call it coming, CES, they're making everybody from China fucking take a fucking test before they come here because that's how bad it is there, and they're saying it isn't that it's a very bad strain of Omicron. It's not killing people per se. I mean, it's still COVID, so it could. It's not that it's like excessively strong and it kicks your ass that bad, but it's been the most contagious strain they've seen yet.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. So me, the way I look at it, I don't want to go somewhere where someone's going to pass something from here to here and then somehow it gets to my mother. Who they don't know my mother from Joe Blow. Like, let's say Christian was in a class and I didn't know you with something with my daughter or something, and then A to B to C in like a matter of 2 days. And again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, and I don't know what we're supposed to do. I don't know.
No, I was trying to look really quickly too, because I just assumed you were fine. It's gotten to the point where obviously, if you're in the same household, you got to look at what your exposure has been. But to be honest, we've all been in the same household for the last few days and with exposure to one another. So obviously you're right. It's probably not the best thing. And it sounds like you'll have to stay home from school at least for a day to see if he's not exhibiting anything. But that's the thing. Like, it's gotten to the point if you're not exhibiting symptoms, you could go and continue. The problem is you don't know if you're going to start exhibiting symptoms for a few days. So you kind of that's the dilemma that we're all in. So some people are like, fuck it, and they go. And no one's wearing. Some people are wearing masks for the most part. Like a lot of people have said, fuck it. They go and live. And that's whatever. We knew it was going to get to this point, right, wrong, or whatever again. But here we are. And I didn't think we were going to be talking about, but that's it. So maybe we won't be rushed off because maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't be zooming him out based on the scenario. So yeah. But anyway, that's why the wrench was thrown in and we were supposed to start early. And then 20 minutes got derailed on trying to set this call up.
Indeed. So now, do you have to check with Carrie and ask her what she thinks about this whole thing with Christian?
Well, she just asked if coffee was on and then said, forget that. That's when I got distracted by it. She goes, forget that. I'm going back to bed. So I don't. And I said, yeah, there is if you want. But she never got back to me. So I think she's back to sleep. So I won't.
Well, wish her well. We wish her well. Best of luck. Hopefully it's a couple days of a little bad cold and then back to normal. That's all you can wish upon people when they have it, because you don't want, see, and then again, that's the thing. Like, I know people that didn't get any vaccines at all, and it was, to them, it was like nothing. It was a fucking cold, in and out.
Like your brother,
like, holy
right?
fuck.
Your
and
brother,
his wife. The both of them didn't.
Like nothing.
In my immediate
family. And you had the vaccines, and at that point I had the two, and then I two or I can't remember if I had the third at that point or not. I didn't. It was 2 at that point.
Dude.
And it was at Easter, and it was like I was like, wow, this is like a flu, because I hadn't had the flu in ages. So it was like, because it was like I didn't feel like really moving. I wasn't like deathly ill, but I just didn't feel like doing anything. I was tired, body aches, chills, all that stuff, fever, and I usually don't get a fever. Right. I feel like I've got a fever, then I take my temperature, nothing. And then this time, oh no, I had a fever. But it wasn't like 104 or 103 or whatever like that. It was like 100, 101. It's like,
that's it, huh? Fuck.
Yeah.
I got the first 3 days, I was like 102, 102 and a half, shit like that. The first 3 days were obviously the worst. They were really, really, I couldn't have light in my room. It was fucking real bad. And now, this is the thing about me. Out of everyone in my immediate family, everybody, I'm the one that never gets sick. Never. I can't. Yeah. Since I've had COVID, that's the last time I had a fever. And before I got COVID, I can't tell you the last time before that I did have a fever.
You're like unbreakable.
Knock on wood. Dude, I'm telling you, my brother, my sister-in-law, everybody I know, my mother, everybody I know gets sick. I never fucking get sick. Now, how fucked up is it that when I got this, I got completely fucking destroyed by it? And it's the only thing that's ever really got me, but it fucked me up bad. It could have been psychosomatic. At the end of the day, I could have, because I was so worried about money for the first 3 days and being on the phone and trying to make sure I was going to get paid and work in New York State. And they were pointing me all these directions. It was a fucking fiasco. And I would literally be sweating when I hung up the phone with them because I'd be that worried about fucking money not reaching the account. So I could have created something where I stressed myself to the point that it fucking made me that sick and it did something to me. I don't know. Or it just fucked me up. I don't know, but that's what happened. I just don't want it again.
Yeah. I will get off of everybody because everybody's COVID fatigued.
Okay, here's some good news.
Long ago.
Here's some good news. Friday the 13th. Have you seen the latest?
Yeah, I noticed, and you know what? Why do I do this to myself? I'm going to skip right over the news and jump to the people's comments and say, this is not what True Friday fans want. They wanted Jason going on a killing rampage. I disagree. I want this. Too. And you and I are both True Friday fans. And I know there's a lot of other. I'm so excited about this. And everybody keeps talking about a glorified prequel, yet they keep writing in the exact same fucking articles that they've got carte blanche of doing whatever they want with the characters and the series. So we know that it's going to have these elements. And right in fact, that because so the news, so that I'm not skipping over you, was Adrian King's involvement and Kevin Williamson writing an episode.
I will tell you. I saved this thing here because there's okay. Check this out. We weren't able to quite give you the Friday the 13th update yesterday about Crystal Lake's show, but it's because news came late in the evening. At the special screening of Part 3 last night in Los Angeles, Crystal Lake showrunner Brian Fuller was in attendance and answered questions during a Q&A session. Journalist Eric Goldman was in attendance and dropped some awesome new information about the show on his Twitter account coming from that Q&A. So here's what was discussed here. Writing begins in 2 weeks, and writers were in attendance at the screening. There will be 2 scores for the show to choose from, the classic Harry Manfredini score and a new score. Screenwriter Kevin Williamson will be writing an episode, not the whole fucking thing, an episode. Yeah. Adrian King will have a recurring role in the show, and Brian Fuller pitched 4 seasons, and just the 1 has been ordered so far. So that's what we know.
So here's what my thought process. A, go with the Harry Manfredini score. It only makes sense. You can maybe evolve that as the show progresses into different seasons and whatever. The Kevin Williamson thing, I don't give a shit about. Sorry, Kevin Williamson wrote Scream.
I get you.
Done.
I like Scream. Kevin Williamson
wrote a lot of other things, but let's be honest. He wrote Scream. I'm not a Dawson's Creek fan. If you're a Dawson's Creek fan, so be it. There's a lot of other things he wrote. I'm not I like the guy. I have nothing against the guy, but I'm not. Kevin Williamson's writing an episode. I don't give a fuck. David Fincher writing an episode or something. I mean, I know he's more of a director. But I'm saying, there's so many Quentin Tarantino writing an episode. Then I'd be like, what the fuck's going on here? Yeah, come on. Yeah. I mean, I know Kevin Williamson has got his thumbprint on some good horror property, but at the end of the day, I'm not that blown. It's not blowing my skirt up, Marilyn Monroe style. I'm lukewarm.
Did you see?
So, what did I see?
The new movie, Sick? It was written by him. I heard good things about it. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I will.
Neither have I, and I'll check it out. I'm not anti. It's just everybody was like, oh, it's okay. Cool. Like, I mean, whoopee. Adrienne King, I was flip-flopping on that too, because I don't know if she's just there to sell her Crystal Lake wines. I feel like the only thing that she could be doing if she's a recurring role, if she's playing Alice, well, no, that then they are ignoring part 2, which would be a weird thing.
Well, no, it's a prequel. Maybe you're going to see, well, why would you see Alice at that age?
Then? Yeah, I thought it was going to be a memoir. I thought they're going to try to do this memoir thing of her writing about her encounter with Friday the 13th, but then they were really ignoring part 2, the beginning of part 2, if she gets killed, which
maybe
I'm not sure I like that then.
Maybe she's Pamela. Did you ever think of that?
So you think she's going to play a different character?
I don't. Oh yeah, how could she be Alice? That's like you said. It's not possible. It's not possible.
Unless they're ignoring part 2. But again, Brad Fuller and catering to the true fans, I don't think that would go over well. Just like her idea of doing like an H2O version. Well, again, anything's possible. The Halloween ones ignored all the fucking other Halloweens.
Yeah, but this is only. But keep this in mind. It's only one season. There's only one season for sure. And if we know that she's on season 1 and it's probably going to be prequel style at least to start, then it can't be Alice.
But that's
got to be. Maybe she's a counselor or a cook.
It's a prequel. She's alive, talking about her memoir of Crystal Lake and how she dug into research, and she now tells the story of Pamela Voorhees and whatever is what I was thinking. That's what went through my head. She's not dead because they're only using the catalyst, like the stories leading up to part 1. But since she's the sole survivor and was the one that beheaded her, it's her story to tell. She's written a book or something, and now it's the memories, and she now tells the story of Pamela Voorhees. I just repeated myself there, but I thought it was such a good point that said, why not?
So she's, in essence, the Crypt Keeper. She's going to come on at the beginning of every week and say,
Well, she looks like him, so I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
Well, Adrienne King. That was good. Wow. At least it's not Ari Lehman. Imagine if Ari Lehman was going to have a recurring role on the show.
What if he just comes like, yeah,
every week?
Yeah. I had to put him on that stupid meme I made for you.
Oh, that was great.
It's just such a dumb picture. Like, it was only going to be the 2 Jasons. I'm like, I'm putting fucking first Jason in. First fucking Jason.
Oh, that was awesome. Oh, dude, that was great. And speaking of the page.
Happy anniversary, by the way.
We've posted. Thank you. Yeah, we had a great one. We fucking a full 3 hours at our favorite restaurant we haven't been to in a couple years, at least 3 years, and had ourselves a time. How about you? Speaking of that song, speaking of fucking the Canadian chorus, we are the champions. See, once again, is a man of the people. This is what I keep saying. You win the vote everywhere. Okay?
Yeah. I told you mine was the most mainstream. I said it going in. I felt bad. I usually feel like I not on purpose. I just seem to gravitate towards ones that are not theatrical runs, that's not for sure, but like the year it came out, I didn't like it as much as everybody else. It was good, but I didn't love it. Now I've watched it more since. For instance, I watched The Menu again.
Oh yeah.
Because it came out on like I guess Hulu for you guys, Disney
HBO
for
Max,
us.
I think. Yeah.
Okay, so it was on one of the things for us because it's out, and so I rewatched it. I will say this. Everything I mentioned about it, wanting it to be longer for more character development, and that I didn't like her arc, I take back. I think it's absolutely not. I was gonna say perfect. I think it's perfect as it is in the sense of I don't need that anymore. And it probably would have scored higher. It probably would have cracked that top 10. I think I gave it the 11th or the 12th spot or whatever. It would have cracked that top 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I showed my wife. My wife was not interested. She thought it was about cannibalism as well. She just assumed it was about cannibalism or a little taste of, and I'm like, if I even said, she goes, I'm not sure if I want to see that about. If you're worried about it being about cannibalism, she goes, I am. I go, it's not. She's like, okay, and then she said, you're right. I'm so glad I watched that. She loved it.
See, yeah, I figured she would. I knew my wife would. I knew my daughter would. I just knew it. It's just one of those easy, accessible movies. As long as I'm not saying it's fluff for the masses, but if you are into horror enough and you know the kind of things that aren't going to bother you, like I mean, obviously our wives have seen enough horror, so we know that this is not hardcore in it. So like, okay, they'll be fine with this, and that's what it is. So, okay. And this is the thing about our list.
Performances. Yeah.
I fucking loved, like I said, for the first time in a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years, I loved my list because it wasn't mainstream. And because I go, this is a list. This is like an old school list for me where I really enjoy my list because I don't feel like fucking mainstream Bob this year. Yes, I do have half mainstream on it, but I also have other stuff that struck me, and I freaking saw everything I saw that year. But apparently, everyone didn't agree with my take. But here's the thing. Like, there's three movies. There's three movies I keep hearing about that are tops of lists. Barbarian. A lot of people like Deadstream, and a lot of people like Black Phone. Now, for me, I gave them 8s, and I think one was a 7.5 or whatever the hell it was. Deadstream, whatever it was. This is it, though. Just because I noticed the faults in the plot that everybody else seems to ignore doesn't make me a bad guy. But I can tell you what the faults in the plot are, and I could say, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, and this. Apparently, I'm the only one that fucking noticed it. So sometimes it serves to my advantage when I see things that nobody else sees, and other times it doesn't. Apparently, I would have been better off not noticing these things that I noticed in some of these movies. I would have enjoyed them more. But I can't help it when I'm watching a movie. I'm like, that's not possible. Come on now. When everything else is rooted in... That's
what happens. I think that's it. Maybe the general. I don't want to say, because I seem to overlook some of those things, but then I get stuck on other things that other people are probably like, Christian, why do you have a stick up your ass for this movie? Like whatever it may be. So I get it, but
I don't want to nitpick.
Well, it also depends on what you describe as mainstream. I guess I'm talking about theatrical release, because was X and Pearl mainstream? Arguable, they're theatrical releases, but were they mainstream? So that
they're
was
not mainstream. But they're typical for what you're going to see on somebody's top 10 because they're damn good movies, especially X, which I will tell you this. I know I do prefer Pearl, and I think X is great, obviously. There was my number 5 or 6, whatever it was. But the thing is, I'm listening to shows, and a lot more people have X in their top 10s than they do Pearl, and it's scored higher. And that's just fine. I know. Yeah, I feel like a little bit of the minority in that where I prefer Pearl, and I'm just like, they are very different movies. And here's the funny thing: they're both movies that I love. I love slashers, and I love character pieces like Pearl, especially with a female and a fucking Rampage. And it's a little more. It is what I'm just saying. I love both of those styles of movies, so that's what I love about those two is that they're different, but they're both great. When I look at the grand scheme of things, I think X is a great movie. I'm just not ready to put it on the fucking pedestal with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. People are talking about it like it's a slasher, like it's a fucking 10 out of 10 fucking slasher. I was like, I do enjoy. Same thing with Terrifier 2. I heard that movie in more top 10s, and was it in yours? I don't know.
It was in my top 10.
Okay,
and I loved it. But people are saying it was the best horror movie of the last 20 years. And I'm like, I don't know about that, man.
No, it's enjoyable, and I get it. I like the gore and whatnot. You probably liked it a little more. I give it an 8. I don't remember what your rating was.
I don't even remember. I think it was a 9.
Okay, yeah. I just can't. I'm just not there with those movies because I think for modern day slashers, they're a lot of fun and they do things right. But when I think about the 80s slashers and even a Scream from the 90s and other ones, I just don't feel like any of those movies are on that level. I think people want movies to be on that level because it makes them feel good that you're watching one, and in modern times we get them. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just need things to sit around more before I can fully appreciate it, and that might be to my detriment. Like I said before about The Witch. I see people that have The Witch in their top 5 horror movies or Hereditary. I can't do that. As much as I love The Witch, it's bumped up a little, but
I thought it would have been. I think the way you talk about it, I thought it was there almost. I feel like I'm the low one on The Witch.
I'll tell you where it is. I'll look at my thing. I'll look at my top 200 my top 100 list. You know what I'm saying? I could go with that and see where I put it. I don't mind putting that out there, which it's coming up soon. I better get these notes all to the top of my screen.
It is.
My screen, But what's it say? Fat Ricky Schroeder. Huh. Fat Ricky Schroeder. Oh, okay. There was a conversation I had with
What? Were you watching Silver Spoons recently?
Well, no. Somebody must have looked. It's hard to explain, but on Friday nights, things happen so funny where somebody will say something that's funny and we'll have to write it down, and then we'll all hear it wrong. One person will say one thing, this person here will hear one thing, and this person over here will hear something else, and I'll write all 3 down to remember the mix-up we had. But hold on.
Fat Ricky Schroeder.
I wish I could find out what it was. Somebody in a movie must have looked like fat Ricky Schroeder. That's all I'm saying, Okay, the top 100 of all time. Okay, where did I put The Witch? See, The Witch is at 18 now. It's moved up. I had it at, I think, 20 or something when we did our top 20 a few years ago. So it's slowly gone up. But here's the thing. As much as I love it, it's not part of me the way a movie like fucking Poltergeist or Creepshow is. It's just not. I've been watching them longer.
That's the ongoing argument. You've got a movie that you've watched 10, 20, 100 times versus a movie you've watched. Well, you've watched The Witch a lot, 7 times. But some people are like maybe 2. I think I'm like 3 for The Witch. So like say that. It's just difficult to put the same weight. I can recognize that it's great, but it just doesn't have the weight. The weight comes with time as well.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people, I think, they get that instant gratification, and I'm not knocking it. I kind of, in a way, I'm jealous. I wish I can look at X or Terrifier 2 and say, oh, yeah, these are as good as fucking, Friday the 13th or fucking Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street or fucking whatever my top 5 slashers are from the past, where I can rate it a fucking over a 9 or Maniac even or Sleepaway Camp. I just don't have that yet. I just can't compare them. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's going to take me 20 years. Maybe
even these lists. That's what these lists that we usually do. Now, again, you usually give the rewatch. I'll give a rewatch when I can. I never did when we first started. I only have done that in the last few years. And ultimately, these are kind of instant gratification lists. These are what are, oh my God, these stood out. And then you might juggle it around based on your rewatch. But who knows what will happen? Like I said, I had Another Evil as my number 1 because I wanted to I put a spotlight on that. I thoroughly enjoyed it that year. I watched it twice. I think I watched it one more time since then. I don't feel like I need to go back to see it again. It was my number 1 of that year. Come on.
And what did you get? What number did you give it?
Like probably a 9. That was a year. I think it was 2017. I believe. And
did
I think
it make your fucking top 100?
I can't remember because again, remember top 100. There's a lot of 9s that were left off that list.
Agreed. Same here.
So I'm almost positive it was off my list because what ends up happening is over time you end up watching. I actually had to look. I gave Get Out. I rated it decently. I didn't rate it high on my list that year, but when I look back at that year, I probably watched that one of the most out of all the movies. So then it's going to stand the test of time more. And again, I recognize it being enjoyable and I liked it when I saw it, but it's just what have you watched more consistently? What do you go back and revisit? Those end up being the ones I think that end up being on your list over time.
That's why I look back at my list since I've been doing podcasts because I have them all since like 2000, I think 13 or 14 written down, right? And I look at them and I go back sometimes and I'm like, oh, yeah, I haven't thought about that one in a while. Then I'll look at a movie that sometimes was like number 9 or number 12 or something. And I'm like, man, that movie was fucking great. And I'll watch it and see, it's the test of time. Like, this is how I know because I look back on movies from a couple years ago and from like, since 2013 and onward. And I'm like, man, this movie, if I were to do this year again, would be way higher. And this one might not even make the list. It's just so there is something to be said about the test of time. And that's why I can't put certain ratings out there or make certain comparisons at this point. So I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if everybody does this. But I mean, obviously,
I think a lot of people. I think we do. We've done it with the Friday 13th. I've been up and down on. When I say up and down on Friday 13th, part 3, I was talking to Gary Miller about this kind of quickly through chat. It's just saying that I've always kind of hovered at around an 8 for it, and it's usually because of the slow start. You get the the events of part 2 leading up to Jason, scurrying, like sort of shuffling his way out of frame after he wakes up. And then you get that whole like 10-15 minute scene with Edna and Harold at the thing. And again, if you're not watching that in 3D, to me, that really drags it down. Now, when you see that in 3D, and true 3D, again, I'm not just the reality of it. I said that's pretty much the only way I watch the movie nowadays. It's so much different with the way that the sheets blow in the wind and the depth that you see there. It's great. There's a lot of actual like tech that went into that to make that look so good. And so the Force 3D is a little off-putting and laughable, but that's half the fun with the movie now. But the depth that they've achieved in a lot of those shots is great, and you lose that in 2D, and so then it becomes kind of dull because it just takes away any depth, for lack of a better term, with the movie. Then you kick it in with the new group of kids, and there's some great kills, as we well know, and then probably an epic final chase. And so when you really look at that epic final chase, and of course he gets his hockey mask and whatever, but you look at that epic final chase, there's a lot of weight. But I've always been, because seeing the movie just on VHS for all those years, I'm like, I liked it. It was fun. It was good. I'd probably rate it, like, when I was a kid, maybe 7.5, 8. Then in my older years, I probably always hovered around more of an 8. But when you see it in 3D, and not the blue red or whatever 3D, but the other one, I think I could even give it an extra point and go up to a 9 with it. I think because that's how it was meant to be seen. To be honest, that's how it was meant to be seen. That's how it was meant to be enjoyed. And so I do believe it elevates the enjoyment level, because you've got the movie you've already liked or loved, and now you've got that added element. So all those really fake things when Harold looks when he's trying to get that pole in the right spot to hit this mark and then put it down and whatever, all that kind of just lands. The eyeball popping out doesn't look as ridiculous. It's still over the top, but it shoots out at you, so it's fun. It's what it was meant to be. So I elevate it. So now when I look at that Friday the 13th series, you got 10, 10, 9, and I've always been like 9.5 to 10 on part 4. I think I finally just said, fuck it, it's a 10, because it is a perfect example of a great slasher. Then I love 5. 5, everybody's like, guilty pleasure. 8 out of 10 for me, and then part 6 is a 9 out of 10, if not more, because I've always loved Jason Lives. I know that's where it stops for you. You just look at that. And I don't know if you did it. I watched 4, 5, and 6, my old trilogy that I always used to watch when I was younger. No question. That would be the first 3 that I went to, 4, 5, and 6. Then I would go back to some of the earlier ones. But then I went to 3, and I watched 3 on the 14th, Saturday the 14th. And I watched it in true 3D like I always did. And it, again, just a lot of fun. I just left 1 and 2 out because I just watched 1 in 4K right before. And I usually watch 1 and 2. And usually I don't even do the Friday the 13th thing, because I always watch the Friday the 13th whatever. But this time I said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. So I don't know if I know you had your anniversary, so there's a little bit more important things going than watching Jason slaughter teens.
Yeah,
for once.
But dude, 1 through 4 is what would always be my go-to. If I was in a pinch, it'd be 1 and 2. But the thing is, I got something to say about part 3. And I hear this all the time. Part 3, I think, is a great slasher, and I think if you just take those, I guess when you compare it to 1, 2, and what came after 4, I could see some people saying it's not as good as those, which is fine, but it doesn't mean that it's not a great slasher still. Like, if you look at movies that came out in 83 and and just other slashers at the time, it was still top of the fucking, it was still Jason becoming what he became with the mask and the look that he had and the kills and the chase and the music. It's still Friday the 13th in its freaking purest form at the best time. The first 4 are fucking epic to me that way. But it's like, here's the thing. I believe that the implication is that it's supposed to still be Crystal Lake, even though it's not. Yeah. Right.
Those palm trees at the back and whatever. Yeah, I know.
And this has always bothered me, that people get mad because, number 1, the fact that she comes out at all, and number 2, that she has a head about Pamela.
Oh, Pamela. Yeah.
Here's the thing. To me, if there's a ghost somewhere, whether or not you have knowledge of the ghost isn't the reason the ghost is going to appear. You don't go into a fucking place and move into a house, you're thinking, I know somebody died here once, so now I'm going to see a ghost. No, if you move into a place and you have no knowledge of the ghost being there and the ghost pops up because the ghost is there. You don't see the ghost because you all of a sudden know who Pamela is. And I've heard this on many a podcast, and I've heard this take many times, and I've always had a disagreement about it, because I'm like, people seem to, that bothers them that she jumps out of the lake at the end, or a pond, whatever, because I know it's small, but I think it's supposed to represent Crystal Lake. Maybe I'm wrong, because they don't actually come out and say it. I know it's Higgins Haven.
I think I always took it as Higgins Haven was like like the cottage area off, like they called it, like, if my cottage, I call it, Luciani Lodge. It's Higgins Haven. It's just that their cottage, or the family that owned it before in the area off Crystal Lake. And they talk about being at the lake. Why are you not in the lake with the others? Or skinny? Oh, they're skinny. They're not skinny enough. It's just a shitty lake because they made it man-made based on the setting they used. That's it. Right. That's really it. Now,
so you agree with me? It's supposed to be Crystal Lake.
It's supposed to be Crystal Lake, and I think that was just a cheap jump scare. It was a dream sequence.
I love it.
So it was a 100% dream sequence. And again, we've made the joke, I think, even on our show and when on a retro, is would it have been sillier if she popped up with no head? Like that fan film that had her walking around with no head?
A fan film did that?
Yeah, like when Pamela was like for a bit or whatever. Like it's just what happens is that would be for the viewer. You're right. Like it's just
okay.
I have no problem with that. I always just wondered why they put that in there for the jump scare. What's scarier is when Jason's clawing at the window without his mask on, looking at her.
Yeah. It's all
That's
scary.
fucking terrifying. Yeah.
Yes, it is. So, okay, wait a minute. Now that you said dream sequence, I guess that changes it a little bit, because why would she be dreaming about Mrs. Voorhees if she didn't know Mrs. Voorhees ever existed? Could be the issue. But I guess, I don't know, can a ghost haunt your dreams if you're on the lake? If you believe in ghosts, if you're introducing ghosts into the equation of anything, then you've already crossed a threshold where the supernatural, or whatever you want to call it, is something that really happens. So if there is a ghost at all, and Jason was a ghost, or was he? See, I guess I can excuse it now, because I'm forgetting that it's a dream sequence, because she wakes up in the boat and she's not wet, she's dry.
Yeah.
So I guess they just should have had her get fucking pulled under. But then you couldn't be saved. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it was a miscue. See, when you said that, it led me to think, oh yeah, wait, it wasn't really a ghost that came out. It was dreamt of the ghost.
When I watched part 4, I watched it twice because I wanted to listen to it with the Joe Zito the commentary. Because I have all these commentaries, and I think I've listened to some of them, not others, and I don't know if I've ever listened to the Joe Zito one, which is where it's him and the screenwriter, and I thought the DP, it was the editor. It was also the editor. That was what it was. And that's what made it fun. It's actually kind of fun. It's not as informative as you'd like it to be. But when they walk through the morgue and they stay in that shot, and I always thought it was Chris being consoled by her mom or something like that. He says it's supposed to be two parents consoling the loss of the death of their kid. But we never really went into any more depth with that. So I thought at least I was on the right track when you see the two people crying when the gurney gets pulled by and they focus on it. I just assumed it was Chris. They couldn't get her back, so they just have that there. Why, like, even though they're in the morgue, it was just a way to that makes more sense that it was two parents, because their kid would be or two family members, because their sibling or son or whatever, daughter is dead. So that was kind of cool. And then he talked about the Gordon thing. He doesn't give a definitive answer. He says he knows what he wanted it to be, which alludes to death, the way he describes it.
Good old
but
Joe
that
Zito.
the producers, but death, not suicide. But again, it makes no fucking continuity sense. Because the way Jason's locked down in the basement, I've always said this. And again, if people are going, "Oh, Christian, you're worried about that," well, yeah, you gotta have some semblance of geography. That whole ending really doesn't make sense. There's no way for Jason to have attached those bodies up. I still have a problem with that, which is probably why I keep it from a 10. Those are the things that irk me. I love it for what it is, but there's some issues there. He pops up, he does the forklift, he's pulling someone out of the window, he comes down, does the thing.
Never even occurred to me.
It always feels like it's been edited out of whack. That's come just from watching it so many times. So you have to take it for what it is, that I've watched it so many times for a reason. That's because I love it. But that's probably why. But I still say, I think the last time I said I'd give it a 10, one way or the other, because it's just so fucking fun and it does what it's supposed to do in a slasher film. But Gordon is upstairs. He runs away because he's scared. And I guess the intention was that Jason was supposed to have thrown him out. But they didn't want him. They didn't want to show a dead dog. And he said they got heat from the producers that they wanted a shot of him running away into the woods. So they wanted him alive. They didn't want a dead dog on their hands in a Friday movie. They could have killed tons of kids, no problem. They did not want a dead dog in it. So they just don't show the aftermath. So it's left to your imagination. But doggy suicide is not one of the options. And again, I know we've taught this.
Doggy suicide makes the most sense. because of the way it jumps out. It's jumped. It's not thrown. We don't see Jason anywhere. Why would he jump out?
He's in the basement.
Out of fear? Fine, but also out of suicide. You know what I'm saying? I'm jumping out because I'm choosing this way over that way. But
and they talked about plot conveniences, like Rob, like how could they be there? Because Sandra was just like the sister was just killed like a day or two before. Again, if you look at the flow of the movies, it does look like it just happened. Boom, 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 boom. Like but you could probably leave a little bit of breathing room. Who's to say? I think they say body, like they've got that newspaper body escaped from the morgue or was stolen from the morgue or whatever. So there's a couple of days. You can assume a couple of days have passed. You can argue a couple of days have passed and give it some breathing room. I don't know if for a vengeful brother to come back looking for Jason, but they even acknowledged that was script service. I love that aspect. I think that I love that character, and I love the fact that they tried to do that. So again, why they needed to make it seem like it was just 2 days later instead of it could have been 2 weeks later? Who gives a fuck? They could have given it a breather. And
yeah, there's no reason for it.
Still body that missing 2 weeks ago or whatever, still missing. Whatever. Who gives a fuck? But
just to make it seem like it was then he got up and he went right back to killing again.
It's not the same night. We already know that a night's passed. Even if part 2 starts on a Friday the 13th, there's another night. JD's taken away. We see that in part 3. So we already know we're on like Sunday, Monday anyway.
Right.
We're on happy days.
Well, I was listening to Jamie and Brian. They were discussing 3 and 4 on their Patreon, and that's what made me think about the ghost thing. And like I said,
we're up to 7
ultimately
and 8
they are right about it. But now, they were talking about the suicidal dog and everything. Well, how it's not suicidal. Brian didn't even know that we had that theory somehow. But he thought it was hysterical though. But the other thing, they were talking about certain things with the final chapter, and what the hell? So ultimately,
I'm out of here. I always think that.
There's a compromise. He wanted the dog to be dead. He had a compromise with the producers because the producers wanted to see him run off, and he said, "No, I don't want to see the dog run off because in his mind the dog's dead." So the director, his implication is Jason throws him out the window and he's dead. That's what he was going for in the script. That was his.
And I've even argued that. I said. I've argued that, saying that I think that's what Joe Zito, that's what the filmmakers wanted to do, but it makes no fucking sense because unless you show me that there's a way out of that fucking basement, Jason's in that basement because Rob's already down there. What you saw, and Trish is in between. Like, there's just no way it could have happened. Just no way.
I gotta look at the layout.
There's no fucking way. He's down at the basement because she screams when she goes up and sees that what's his face is dead in the been nailed up against the wall in the washroom.
Jimmy
and whatever she starts screaming, he's here.
Right.
Rob comes up and they go back down to the basement, or she runs down and they're in the basement together. And that's when his foot goes through the stairs, he goes back down, and Jason skills him. Which it is and whatever, he's down there waiting.
You're
People forget he's down there waiting. And then when she runs away, all the people have been strung up and whatever. There's no way that he could have done it because he's down in the fucking basement. They've come into the house already those ways. But then suddenly there's a body at door number 1. There's a body strung up at door number 2. It couldn't happen. I've said this on TGIF 13. I've said this when we've done the retrospective. And again, this is a major nitpick because it's a huge continuity error. Unless they showed some sort of, those things that you open up. Like, I think we're going to be talking about one later today in one of the movies we're talking about, where you open them up to get to the basement from the outside. They don't establish one of those. That's the only way Jason could have got out of the basement and gone back into the basement. But again, I know these movies were never constructed to make sense, but it's really convoluted when you look at it and you actually try to piece it together from a timing and a geographic structure. I keep using the term geographic because Jason's here, then he's here, then he's there, then he's there. So he's already teleporting before part 8, essentially.
Well, see, now that's a problem. See, because I don't want to be one of those people. That's what I'm saying. And I said it before that people, they judge modern movies differently than they judge older ones. So if I'm going to nitpick about something, and I don't consider it a nitpick, but if I'm going to have a critique about something that I didn't like in any movies from 2022, then if you're pointing these things out, the thing that really gets me is the fact about the newspaper and Sandra and everything else doesn't make sense. I think at the time you don't think about it because when it's released a full year after
yeah, exactly.
part 3.
You're thinking time's passed. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's probably why. Because they don't want it to come off like it's a fucking a serial or a television show where it's chapter. I mean, maybe they do. They literally call it the final chapter. But
they referenced that too. They said that was written for almost script convenience because he needed it for the psychological connection at the end. Because essentially Tommy's doing in a way what Ginny did in part 2. She's pretending to be his mother. She's pretending to be him.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And they even make a joke about why is Tommy calling him Jason if he's supposed to be. Remember Jason? Remember you were Jason?
Well,
Jason, he probably don't you remember that you're Jason?
Well, he's saying, don't you remember?
Yeah.
This is what you look like, and I'm the same way. I'm the same thing that you are. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just gonna at least put it out there because what else do you have to go with in a pinch? You may as well try to distract it. You see a young boy and you see a shaved head. Fuck it, why not? What other choice do you have?
I thought, no, I'm not against it. I forgive all the newspaper shit and the Rob coming after Sandra stuff because I'm saying they all of that they could have just let it breathe and say it was 2 weeks later. But they're so worried about it being on a Friday the 13th, but it couldn't have been because we already seen time lapse. So just either it's a year later and it's a Friday the 13th again, which is stupid because we don't need that. We don't need the Halloween anniversary thing per se. And it just continued this because it is continuing the killing spree. It's not Friday the 13th. We should know that. Everybody knows that by now because days have passed since part 2 supposedly took place on Friday the 13th.
And here's the funny part. The marketing. Yeah. It says Friday the 13th is Jason's unlucky day for the final chapter. Well, it really wasn't. Think about it. He already kicked some ass. So wait, Friday the 13th was part 2 then, right? So
supposedly. Well, like I never knew they acknowledged that it was Friday the 13th.
We discussed it.
Yeah,
we did
part 1. We already know part 1's there. I think the idea is that part 2 took place on Friday the 13th, and then part 6 we know Happy Friday the 13th. We know that part 6, and then I think the opening of part 7, because I think they have the calendar in the corner.
Well, we discussed it on the show. I went through every fucking. I even went an extra mile. I looked at the book. I did this. I was trying to look at the years in the past and what it could be, and I really tried to fit everything.
Listen to the retro, everybody.
Listen to the retro. I should go back and listen to myself now to educate myself on the things that we've already said because we forgot. But
I've always said that the editing again, it's a nitpick because the kills are great, the kills are plentiful, there are boobs and whatever. And as a young kid, that's what I wanted in my slasher movie, and we got it, and it was scary. It's just like Jason was scary with those nails, the mask, the way he actually ran, or at least did a healthy jog. Like he was menacing. So like it had all the proper ingredients, and slasher movies are not usually known for cohesion. But it just is like, I'm just saying it from a nitpick from watching it so many times. It's like he's down there, sticks a corkscrew in, suddenly he's upstairs, throws the girl through the window, hits the car, goes back down, sticks the knife through Teddy's head. I just said I almost feel like they played around with it in the editing to maybe make it because they thought it maybe worked a bit better how he maneuvered, but he's clearly in the basement waiting for Rob when the Gordon thing happens and when the bodies have suddenly appeared since they came into the house.
Yeah. So wait, Gordon. Okay, there's two different houses.
Trish is at the top of the stairs.
That's the problem.
Rob's already down there. Gordon goes and runs up the stairs, not through one of the open doors already. Runs up the stairs, and then you she's like, Gordon, you hear, and then you hear the whole thing where Brandon thinks there's a crack in the back because there is some sort of sound effect, and then he wags his tail jumping out of the window.
See,
Done. We're off Gordon, and then we're back on Trish going to find Gordon. Rob's still in the basement. They could have had him come out, but maybe to look around in the kitchen, whatever. She goes up, sees the tangerine nailed to the wall, says he's here, runs back down, but he's still coming up from downstairs in the basement. He's not on the main level. Even the main level would have explained maybe that Jason got away or away, but he's still downstairs. They meet. He slips through the stair, goes back down, and that's where he gets killed by Jason, who's in the basement.
Right. Well,
one way up, one way in, is what's been established anyway. Again, I'm nitpicking everybody. I get it, but I'm saying this is the reality of the situation.
I guess it should affect my rating then. I should bring it down a bit, to be fair. Because, well, no, seriously, it's unfair to do it because of a title. That's why I like to say I judge everything. I watch a movie. I don't care who the director is. I don't care if it's part of a franchise. I don't care about anything, knowledge about any of the making of it. Not one damn thing, whether it's based on something else. That is the way, in my opinion, to watch a movie. You sit down and judge whatever you see. Judge is a terrible word, but base your experience on what's on your screen in that given time frame.
But that's what you're doing. But that's what you're doing. Now I'm nitpicking it. You've based it on your experience of what you've seen on the screen. Now I'm saying, based on seeing it I don't even know how many times.
But still.
Point. We put this up. Do you think I noticed that the first time I watched it? No.
No, fuck
but
no.
Over time, I'm like, well, that was weird. Why did they do that? Why did they do this? But if you're not going to watch the whole movie again right now, watch from when Trish and Rob walk from that one shot that comes from their house to the other house, and watch how that all plays out. Because they come through the door, there's no dead bodies, and everything else. And she shatters that window, I think, to get out because Crispin Glover's been strung up. It's just watch that whole scene and just say, how could this have happened if they were in the basement for that time frame? That's it. That's all I'm saying, everybody. And we went on this way longer than I thought.
Okay, an error is an error. It doesn't matter what it is. That's why when I watch a movie, like I said, when I was talking about Barbarian or this or that or Ted Stream or fucking Black Phone or anything else that I only put in my not bottom, but my 22 to my 11 as opposed to my top 10 based on errors I saw in the script and on the screen. So if it's an error there and there's another error in the Friday the 13th, I have to accept it. But at the same respect, if I tell somebody, hey, there's an error in this movie, if they're looking at it and they go, well, I don't care, it's still fucking a 9 to me. Well, that's on you. But if someone points things out to me in a movie, I can be talked down. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
But does it affect your enjoyment? You have to find out if it. Watch the scene again, see if it affects your enjoyment, and then make a decision.
If you think about it, it will. How could you not think about it now?
I always think about it, but I still said I gave it a 10 because of just the grandiose nature of the film, of what they did. It's like they took, and Joe Zito was against the opening scene. He just wanted to start his movie. And I'm like, that is what the most epic opening. You're thinking it's the final chapter. You give this beautiful sort of cut sequence montage to introduce your film. And then you get right into it. You take it up and it's like just keeps building. And you've got quirky characters. You got characters that you like or at least can relate to. They're fun and it moves pretty good. And the Blu-ray, you do notice a lot more grain during the day. Some day shots look poor. They haven't aged well. Some look decent. Like when they're doing the skinny dip scene, it actually looks quite good. But when they're walking to the scene and when that girl walks away, I mentioned this on the show before as well, it looks horrible. It was already grainy on VHS. It's only gotten worse as we got into a 4K scan Blu-ray of the Scream Factory. It's really grainy and just looks muddy and horrible. But the night stuff, for the most part, looks really good. So it's a mixed bag for that. I always said part 5 shocked me at how good it looked on that Scream Factory release. And part 4 was, it looked the worst out of the first 6 movies.
Interesting. I just remember raving about all of them, actually, especially the first 4. But maybe you're onto something. I just didn't notice that. Again, I have to look. Well, again, I have to watch it again. I got to watch part 4 soon then, apparently. I got some things to think about.
I'm wondering, I just want to get your take again, whether it affects your experience. You make you decide or not. You're like, I can explain it this way. Like Brandon explained it. He thought Gordon's back was broken. Because you guys were so, I think, hung up. So was I about Gordon and what was he killed? Was he trying to escape and whatever? You guys weren't listening to the fact that I talked about this on the retro. I said it it feels like it was edited weird and shifted, but it also, I don't think it could have been done, and the dead bodies could have been set up unless he had a helper. And Jason's little helper, Gordon, dragged all the bodies.
Yeah, that's where he went to.
Yeah. No. Here we are talking about it again. I think the episode we just dropped, 153, we're talking about Gordon, and we're still fucking talking about it.
Gordon, we say it more than than Tommy says it in the movie. Gordon, every week we're Gordon. So now, Gordon himself. Well, I've had critiques about Halloween 4 and Black Christmas for similar type things where time frame and doesn't make sense. What they show here and motives don't make sense at that moment. So I can't excuse something because the title is Friday the 13th. That's what makes me a fair fucking person about it. Other people like JP, the fucking Friday fan, and some other people want to watch a movie, and just because Jason's in it, and just because it's Friday the 13th, automatically say, well, it's at least an 8 out of 10 or some shit like that. That doesn't make any sense.
That means his name was Jason, Never Hike Alone, Vengeance, and everything. They're all 10 out of 10s then. I said I've liked more, and they all have problems. All of them have problems in those fan films. And I said, even the ones that I put a little bit more in a pedestal that other people maybe not like the Vengeance ones, they still had issues too. They had lots of issues. Too many characters, too many rampage death scenes. You're like, how can that be? Well, just trim it back. You got something good here. And like I said the last time, no fan film should be an hour and 45 fucking minutes.
Buddy, look at it this way.
You got the magic already. Trim it back and make your movie tight and entertaining. And you could have combined it. Again, I know what they're trying to go for, and kudos to them, but it just is like they had, like I said, they had it. And it would have been the most entertaining. It is still, in my opinion, that second one is probably still the most entertaining fan film that I've watched, but it's just too damn long. So you're not going to watch it, even though I told you it's good. I know you're not going to watch it.
Too long. If it was fucking an hour and 20 minutes, yes, I would give it my time. I would believe, but no, I'm not going to. And the thing is this: how is being a fan of a franchise any different than being the fan of a band? Let's look at like the Smashing Pumpkins. I love the fucking Smashing Pumpkins. They're in my top 20 bands, whatever. But I'm gonna tell you what. Just because something says Smashing Pumpkins on it, and just because it's always the same band members, which of course it's not, maybe that's not the best example, but still, just because it's the Smashing Pumpkins doesn't excuse it from fucking a shit album is a fucking shit album. The same way a shit album movie is a shit movie. Just like the last two Pumpkin albums were shit, and whatever we could talk about, and then on the same respect, other movies that other albums that other people weren't maybe paying attention to from the Pumpkins that came out, because they thought they had fallen off or whatever, they're not keeping up with them. I will tell you that they're actually very good albums. So just because you have your heyday, let's look at the first 4 Pumpkins albums and compare it to the first 4 Friday the 13th. It's the same thing. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, just because it's Billy Corgan and James Iha and Jimmy Chamberlain and Darcy's gone now, poor girl. But I mean, just because it's them doesn't make it, and a title Smashing Pumpkins doesn't excuse it. It doesn't make it good. It's the same. How is that any different from the Friday the 13th franchise? You have to be true to the fucking game, man. And that's why I'm the true Friday fan.
I can't. And so report back. There's a cliffhanger for everybody.
So yeah, here we are. It's we got movies to talk about. We ended up being able to make a few adjustments on the fly, and the show will still be almost like a normal length show. So it's not bad.
I'm not going anywhere necessarily. No.
Yeah. See, that's cool. See what happens. Yeah. So we'll be able to let the reviews breathe a little bit, and not have to rush anything, and do our 98 thing. And man, then we're getting so close. We're getting so close. February is going to be a busy month. Let me tell you that.
These were interesting movies that were chosen. I mean, the last broadcast lost by 1 vote for a tie. So I almost feel like I was almost going to say, should we put the 3 up there and have them choose between those 3? Even though there was one clear winner, which was The Faculty. And The Faculty is very loved. I looked at my letterbox very quickly, shocked at how many 5s and 4.5s there were. I'm not that high on this movie. I don't know if you want to jump in on this one, or if you want to start with Strangeland or what.
Hey.
But in typical fashion, I'm not ready to go.
That's
so let me bring it up while we're introducing. But this was I saw this in the theater. I remember liking this in the theater. I was also a big fan of Robert Rodriguez. I liked what he did with El Mariachi. And again, that resonated well again because it was right when I was at film school, or I was at university studying film. And I was like, he's doing it the right way. And he had his book or article and how he made it and how you can make your own movie for $7,000 and his tips and tricks and how his film career catapulted and started from that. And I love that. That's that him and Kevin Smith, that's what just sort of sat with me. So I was following everything they were doing at the time. And he had already done From Dusk Till Dawn, which blew me away. And then this, I think, again, there might have been something in between, but I think this was his follow-up. A little bit more Hollywood, a little younger. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Did you see this in the theater?
No. The funny thing is this. I didn't see this movie until like 2016 or something like that. It was one of those movies that there was a time where January, I wasn't necessarily doing non-horror watches, which, by the way, I can't get to the non-horror stuff this year because I'm catching up for the 22 Shots 1980 show. So, I believe it or not, I have not been all that into 1980. The excitement of 1980, I'm not as excited as you would think I would be. And so I've been kind of lollygagging. Well, mostly because the top 10, 12 movies, I already know what the hell they're going to be. So I'm basically doing all the first-time watches now. And they're fine. Some are better than others. Some have been pleasant surprises. But just in general, I'm just going down the list, and I'm not like overly enthused about watching any of them. I just haven't been in the fucking frame for a while. I've just been so into modern movies lately that going back and doing a year of the old ones maybe it's just a phase I'm going through. I don't know. So I put some things off, and now I got to play catch up for 1980, and I am. So I'm not going to be able to do the non-horror thing. Maybe I'll do it in February or March. I don't know. But getting back to what I was saying, there was a time where not only was I doing non-horror, I think I was doing horror movies that I hadn't seen before and feel like I should have. It was just that one of those type of lists, like not list, but one of those type of things. And I think I talked about it on this show or on a solo cast or a Patreon show or something. And it was the first time I had watched it, and it was The Faculty. And I didn't watch it initially because that's when I was out. And anything after 96, when the Scream came back, and I'll say it again and again, it only resurrected me for like a minute, like a hot minute. I came back into horror because of Scream. By the time Scream 2 came out, like anything that came after Scream, and it wasn't that much because it was the end of fucking December, I wasn't excited. I didn't even see Scream 2 until the 2000s. Anything that came out after Scream that had that look, and I did see H2O. I did see that. That's different. That's Halloween. Of course, I saw every Halloween in the theater. But it was like, anything that had that look of floating heads or had that type of, it just didn't. All I knew was that, well, it's not going to be as good as Scream, and they're probably trying to do the same thing. And at the time, I was just like not overly enthusiastic about anything going on in the genre. So I did not see The Faculty until 2016, and I saw it, and I gave it a 9 out of 10. I was like, wow, really good movie, man. Wow, this and this. I had one complaint, which hasn't changed, which I'll bring up later, which some people razz me for, but I think it's a legit complaint. It's a bit of a cheat, and I can't get over it. Actually, there's a cheat in both of these movies. But, and I can only call what I see. But,
here, I didn't even introduce it. So, The Faculty, 1998, directed by Robert Rodriguez, when Casey Connor, Harrington High School's newspaper photographer, witnesses the murder of a nurse and sees her alive again. She decides to investigate the bizarre happenings. My biggest thing is I'm on board sometimes. It's goofy, it's kind of fun, and then it kind of just loses me, and I don't give a fuck. Like, really? I just realized I'm like, I don't really give a fuck. I don't really like any of these people other than Elijah Wood, who I seem to like Elijah Wood in everything he's in. He just, for some reason, I just like him. And so I think it just makes it easier for me to like his characters. But I don't know, man. Like, something about this movie, I was just like, okay, it's decent. It's decent. It's enjoyable. It's a fun little waste of time. But then when it was over, I'm like, thank God this is over.
Interesting.
I do not have any. I ranked it on, or I put it on my watch list on Faculty. I'm not my watch list, but I guess on my list for 2023 watches. And I just happened to click on some people's ratings. I'm like, holy fuck, this movie's beloved. And I can't understand why. Like, to the extent I can understand liked, but this is loved.
It's a Scream phenomenon. It's a movie that it's probably the best movie that's post Scream between 96 and 2000 that isn't Scream. Probably. If you look at everything. Now, I'm going to say this. 98 and 99, when I look at what's on them, they are better years than I was giving them credit for. I still think the middle sucks. I still think like fucking 93 to 97 are pretty shitty, except for a few spots here and there. But I mean, if you look at the titles, like even the ones on this list, I was, when we put it together.
That's why I thought we could do it.
Right. And 99 is similar, maybe not quite as good, but there are some titles in there as well. So it was kind of getting there. It was fine. But if I think about the movies that were released at that time, this is definitely one of the better ones. So I think because it has that post-Scream vibe going on and is not a slasher and is something different at the time. And here's the thing. I understand why it's beloved. I do, because it's different than the stuff that was out at the time while still feeling like a movie of its time. Because you can't help the time frame you are made in. But this clearly is that time frame. You could and I've been critical about the 90s look. I don't like it. But here's the funny thing. Strangeland doesn't really have that look. When I watch this movie, it has that 90s look that I don't like, and it's hard for me to explain what that look is, but I could walk in a room and see it and say, okay, that's a 90s horror movie or a 90s movie. You just know, and it has that fucking 90s score, that bombastic fucking... I don't like the 90s scores. Now...
Well, it also has a really bad soundtrack. I remember it being really touted as being cool because of all the covers or whatever.
I like the soundtrack. I like the soundtrack in this movie. And I like the soundtrack in Strangeland, the other movie. 2 movies with 2 good soundtrack. Very different, but I like the soundtrack. I'm not saying I enjoy every single song on the Faculty soundtrack, because of course I do not. But I would say I like at least half of them, and the ones that aren't there, it's kind of nostalgic. It's a time period. It's a time capsule to hear that stuff in here, and I do kind of like that. So I'll give it a pass.
It's got the same haircut. It seems like Josh Hartnett, or I think that's his name, walked right off of H2O right into the Faculty, or vice versa. It's like the exact. He looks identical. I mean, came out the same year, but you figured they would change his style or something. It looks like he literally walked off once. No, I like him. No, I like him.
No. You said you didn't like any of the characters. You said you only liked one character. You didn't like his character? You had problems with all these characters, really?
All of them. All of them were annoying to me. I did not like. I mean, in fact, if I had to take, like, I'm going by in retrospect, back in the day, back in 1998, and then when I reflect, I have 2 different. I'd say that I would have liked Urban Legend more than this. I definitely liked Vampires more than this. Didn't love Vampires, by the way. I liked Vampires. Still only like Vampires. John Carpenter's Vampires, but more than this. Deep Rising, I think, was more fun than this. Bride of Chucky, I like more than this. And I said Urban Legend. Disturbing Behavior was another one that I thought was a lot of fun. Nothing great, but I think I like more than this. And Blade kicks this movie's ass.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
In my opinion. I am shocked. Like, I'm shocked. I expected people to like it. And I'm fine with it in the sense of, like, it's all right. It's fun. It's a good time waster, as I said. I'm already repeating myself because I really don't know what else to say about it. I guess it was written by Kevin Williamson, which maybe is why it's so Scream-esque. It was written by him, right? I'm not fucking that up. And written by him, directed by, and it feels like it was written by him, I guess, like with the references, the meta references to, I guess, we don't want to seem like we're ripping off Invasion of the Body Snatchers or
Puppet Masters.
Puppet Masters.
Or The Thing.
So we'll just reference them. Even though it's really, that's what it is. It's a hodgepodge of way better movies and way better ideas. And you just said it there. Like, I started it, you brought The Thing into it, and there was a couple of other ones where you got a little pinch of Scream with the writer, From Dusk Till Dawn director. That's fine. That happens. Collaborations happen.
Think about
I'm okay with that. A pinch of this Thing, a little splash of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and there's more. Yet I liked all of those other movies so much more than this. And this one, I feel like I said, it's okay.
Well, think of it this way. I think it's beloved because nostalgia, but not just nostalgia and like just wearing the glasses of nostalgia, just for that reason only, but for the time. This is a fresh take on something cool. It's not a damn slasher like everything was. So it looks like a 90s slasher, like from that era. But guess what? We're not going the slasher route. We're going to do something different here. There's not another movie like it at the time. There's not another movie that had this type of setup that went in this type of direction. That's what I think it is that it was familiar feeling.
Aliens versus students?
Well, it was familiar feeling, but it was different. It wasn't a slasher. It was talking about being taken over by aliens, which nobody was doing at the time. And pod people, if you will, whatever. Not pod people, but you know what I'm saying. But them being overtaken like The Thing, we hadn't seen anything like that for this generation, for the late 90s, for the post-Scream time. So I think, and there's nothing weak about it except the CGI, which in hindsight now just does not age well, and it's too bad. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about it, but the gore we got, the little bit of gore we got, and the little bit of practical we got did look good. It's just the CGI didn't age well, but I guess at the time you didn't know. And now my dog comes downstairs. Fucking
That's
Bailey.
okay.
Yeah, well, I hope it's not okay if she shits on the floor, is it? Then we got a problem.
Then it's not okay. That's not okay.
Right. So we don't know the fact that she's down here.
Like I said, as I was watching it, I was like, okay, the interesting opening. I like the actors. They got a nice little cool cast of characters. Like the girl that plays the outcast or whatever. I like her. I like her look.
Clea Duvall.
Like the girl that I would have been attracted to in high school.
Which
as
one?
Creepy as that sounds now that I'm older. The outcast girl.
100%. Clea Duvall. Yeah. I always fucking dug her. I think it's a very attractive cast. Females for sure, maybe males. I mean, Josh Hartnett's a nice looking guy. I could say that. I don't know about the other guys. I guess they're probably decent looking men. But a very attractive cast from the top to just all over the place.
You have your dick sucked from them for about $1,000 a month.
I don't know, but I mean, I've always loved Clea Duvall. Something about her look. She has a freaky look to her.
She's
something
good.
about
she's really
her.
good. And she's good in this. Like,
and she's
I liked
done
her.
Well here.
So let me rephrase. Yes. I liked her as well.
The character and her. I like them both. 100% I did. Here's the funny thing about her.
Oh,
in reality.
That whole drug test nod to the Thing was that irked me.
Well, it irked me because what happened later is complete and utter bullshit. The result, the way it was cheated was a cheat on not just them, but of the audience. It was insulting to fucking our intelligence. It's like nobody would see.
It was like an old serial. Like an old, like the old serials that like Raiders of the Lost Ark was, where they show like the hero like going in a wagon off a cliff and him crashing to his death, and then they cut back next week and then you see a clear shot of him jumping to safety before it all happens again, and it's like, no, we would have seen that.
He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you described. That's it, Annie Wilkes. But it's true. You are going to see. Okay, I'm not gonna call cocaine, but you're gonna see crushed up fucking white powder. If it is, it's gonna go all over her fucking clothes, and people are there. It isn't like every single eye in that room. Of course, they're gonna be eyeing her and the other girl.
They're watching them do it. And why have the nose plugs?
Poor.
Why have the alien nose plugs come into effect?
No
You're
sense.
just gonna do that anyway.
Correct. Yeah, it was a double fuck.
Stupid.
Yes, it is stupid. All you gotta do is let it go. A bad fucking cheat. I don't care what anybody tries to sell me in the comment section. If they disagree with me, it is a fucking poor cheat, and you've just fucking cheated yourself if you think that is good. And that's always been my big knock. Again, I gave it a 9 out of 10, but it could have been higher if not for that fucking cheat at the time.
And I also thought the girl. I thought the girl was naked for half the movie. I don't know. Maybe I was thinking Life Force or something. Okay. I don't know. But I was like, it's literally the last maybe 10 minutes, if that. Of the film, and it's like 2 shots.
Yeah, but it's memorable, and I'll tell you this. First of all, Clea Duvall, I was talking about her. The funny thing about her is, in reality, she actually is gay. But
she's gay.
But she didn't come out until she was in her 30s. So all this stuff, think about this. As an actress, she's on there and everybody's hurling all these lesbian things at her, and she's saying, I'm not a lesbian. Literally, that was mirroring her life. She was going through that at the time, and that's kind of sad. So looking back on it now, she came out in her 30s. So at this type of the movie, she's like 22 or whatever the hell she is. You know what I mean? So it's just odd to know that about her, and to know that they were hurling all these things at her, and that she was saying, no, I'm not, and everyone thinks I'm gay, but I'm not, and in fact she was in real life. But anyway, so now that's her. My first time, what's the word I'm looking for? Not first appearance. Time? Not my first time. The first time I saw this movie, I guess, is a shittier way to say it. But my first, I'm flipping channels one day, and this is probably in the early 2000s or maybe late 90s even. And I see this scene of this naked girl walking, but not just this naked girl. I'm flipping the channels and I see the girl from fucking 15 walking naked. And I'm like, what in the fuck is, I haven't seen this girl since 15. Do you know what 15 is?
Do I know what 15? The movie?
Yes.
No, I remember 13. Movie. I don't remember 15.
15 was a TV show. It came out in 1990, and it was on Nickelodeon, and it was a basically maybe like a Degrassi type thing. I want to say that it definitely was Canadian, but I'm not 100% sure. I knew they kind of talked a little different. But I don't know. But the thing is, country of origin, Canada, United States. Okay, so it was Canadian. So it's funny because when I got MB, one of the first things I did was fucking see if they had 15, because I was thinking about it, because I used to watch it when I was younger. 1990, it was like on for, I don't know, fucking 3 seasons or 4 seasons, whatever it was. And it's so funny because I did watch it and I realized how poor it was because they only had like 3 sets. But as I was watching it at that time, it never occurred to me. But she was the main girl. Her name was Ashley on the show 15. So I knew her from the time she was on that show. And the time she was on that show, she was probably 16. I was probably 18 or 19. But I watched the show. There was one girl in particular. Her name was Brooke.
Was anybody 15?
Is anybody actually a 15? Maybe. I don't know. I had to go through every one of them. But they were playing 15-year-olds. And there was this one girl, Brooke, who I thought was really attractive. She was, again, I wasn't being pervy. She was also born in 72. So I looked it up. Her name is Robin Ross. But she played the bad girl, Brooke. Anyway, it was this show, and it was only maybe 7, 8 people in it. I would say regulars, kids, maybe a little more. But it was like a Degrassi thing, but I can't say Saved by the Bell because it wasn't really funny. It was topical. Actually, if you look at 15 follows the students of fictional hillside school and dealt with a variety of issues, including dating, divorce, alcohol abuse, and friendship. The show played heavily into stereotypes, including 2 characters named Dylan and Chris, who wore leather jackets to show off their toughness, but could not completely disguise their inner selves. Anyway, she was the main girl, Ashley, on 15. So now I hadn't seen her since fucking the early 90s. And I was flipping channels one day, and I see fucking the girl from 15 walking naked on this thing. I'm like, what the fuck? Number one, I haven't seen this girl in years. Number 2, she's the goody good girl from 15, and she's naked on my screen. And I'm like, holy fuck. So that was my first, and so I watched that. And right. And I always remembered that, though. I was like, look at this. I can't believe this. So yeah, Laura Harris doing her thing is what caught my eyes flipping channels. And I was like, wow.
But you never watched you hadn't seen the movie yet. And you just watched that scene and hadn't watched the rest of the movie. So that didn't even make you want to go back to watch it. That tells you something.
Well, I wanted to. I just was busy at the time, being whatever age I was and doing the shit I was doing. It was a different time for me. I don't know. I was in my fucking 20s. It was just a different time. I just wasn't at that point that I was.
I was older. I was in my 20s. But I mean, this is what I'm saying. I still loved horror. I still went to support. This is what I said. I saw all the movies in the theater that time frame that I could. So I wanted to love it. It was Robert Rodriguez as well. And I liked it. I even said, I remember I liked it. Probably, 7 out of 10 at the time when I saw it. But I had never wanted to go back to revisit this for whatever reason. And then
what a cast, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I agree. But that scene, another scene, when you're in that teacher's lounge when you're getting introduced and Salma Hayek is coming in and sneezing on things and it's a cold and whatever. If that doesn't come across as a bad SNL skit, it seems like bad acting, forced. I was like, what am I watching here? What's going on here?
Wow.
There's got to be something else, and maybe they're playing with the pod people idea, but no one really had been changed yet. Well, the coach had been, and whatever. It just seemed really forced and really wonky. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a pass because I don't want to just hang my hat on that one scene like I sometimes do, and I just dig into the movie. And I had fun with it. Like I said, there were some fun parts, and it's not a boring film. It moves, but just when it was all over, I'm just like, it's a hodgepodge of much better films. And at the end of the day, it's watchable. I saw it back in 98, saw it again now, have no interest in seeing it again. And that has to reflect in my review. Did I enjoy it? I said it was okay. I had some fun with it, but it's hard for me to recommend that. When I saw all these 4.5, 5-star reviews, I was like flabbergasted. I'm like, wow. I guess I needed to be 10 years younger, maybe.
I don't know. Like I said, I gave it a 9 when I saw it in 2016, so I got it. Last night I was excited to go into it to a degree, but I knew it was gonna win. I can always call the fucking winner, almost always.
You called it. I
said the Faculty is going to be a given. Let's see what the other. And I'm glad the one that won did win. I wanted fucking Strangeland to come up because that's another movie I only saw one time. And my recollection
I
of
never
it ended
saw
up
it.
being.
I thought I had. I thought I saw it. And then I realized no, because I remember. I'll get into it when we talk about that movie. Okay. But it was a first time watch.
But okay, what I like about this movie is that it wasn't just like everything typical at the time. Not just because the thing. I'm not going to regurgitate what I said. But what I'm saying is this: the cast. You didn't spend your time with just 2 people like you would have spent the majority of the fucking Scream era slashers and the movies at the time. This was a huge cast, even of kids. You had maybe 8 fucking kids you were dealing with. And because of that and the teachers, it bounced around in a perfect sort of way for me where you weren't stuck with one person the whole time. Some people like being stuck with one person. I understand that to get to know the character better. I think we got everything we needed to get from these characters in the time we spent with them. And I like the fact that we had a little over here. It helped with the flow of the movie and a little over here. And it bounced around a little bit, not obnoxiously bouncing around where it's just getting fucking constantly going crazy, but enough. It was a bigger cast than usual and a good cast of characters and good actors. I mean, you have fucking Robert Patrick in here. You have fucking Baby Newirth, which, ooh, Madonna, I fucking always love her. Anytime she wasn't Lilith, I thought she was fucking just stunning. And in this movie, and the other, that's the thing. You have all these attractive females.
Famke, whatever her name is.
Famke Janssen, whatever. Oh my God! Just everyone in this movie, all the females are attractive. From the adults to the fucking teens.
2 extremes. Everything's done in extremes here, so it comes across as caricatures, which is fine. I don't need, but they're like caricatures planted in what seems to be real life, and yet I know it's hard to say that when you know the plot of the film as well too. But grounded in what's supposed to be real, so that the alien situation seems really totally crazy and foreign to everybody, that when they have to fight them back, it's fun. But I don't know. I just don't know.
You know why it's smart? I'll tell you why it's smart. Because whodunits, because of Kevin Williamson, and this has been a critique, how every fucking movie became a whodunit in a way where, is it you? Is it you? Is it me? It screams to this day parodies it. It almost became a parody of itself. With True. That, it was something that was way added that we had in the early 80s slashers, but it was a whodunit more so for the viewer than it was for the cast.
Then you nailed
it. Right? Okay.
You nailed it, because the most important thing of a whodunit is you actually care who did it. And I didn't care.
Yeah, you just wanted to get over.
That's exactly it. I didn't care. That.
You just want the reveal. But here's what I like about this. Like I said, it was smart because it still made this a whodunit in that way, but it wasn't a slasher. It was a different type. That's what I'm saying about it being smart. It was of its era, but it took a left turn. Instead of being a slasher, they said, okay, let's take a formula somewhat like this. Let's not have a fucking slasher ghost face killer or whatever, a guy with a man. Let's have it become Alien now and take it from this perspective. And then put in the whole fucking idea of the faculty, which, by the way, I wrote a similar story in 6th grade. How about that? I'm glad I just thought to tell this now. When I was in 6th grade, I wrote a fucking story. And the story was we were going on a field trip somewhere. And we were taking a train. And murder started happening on the train. And it came out at the end that the teachers were killing the students. And I legit wrote this fucking story when I was in 6th grade. So pretty young. And I wrote this story because back then I was into writing stories and I was encouraged to write because they said I was a great writer, but my handwriting sucked, so it was always going to hold me back. A different world now, unfortunately. But anyway, because nobody's fucking handwriting. Right.
Cursive.
So now, right. Oh, what could have happened if I was born a decade later or two, you know? But anyway. So I wrote this story and
your favorite movie.
They liked it. My teacher liked the writing, but was mad at the fact that I made the teachers the killers. So it never got to be fucking promoted to anybody else. See, if you wrote something that was really good, they would tell other teachers about it, and they would make a big deal about something being sent to Albany. For whatever the fuck that, I just remember them saying about it. This is an example of excellent writing. We're going to have it, but so I already wrote a story like this where the teachers ended up killing the students, except mine was set up more like a slasher. It was almost like a terror train. But I don't think I even knew what terror train was. It was at the time. That's what's kind of weird about it, that I wrote it on a train in a field trip. But anyway, this just reminded. So it was a bit of an original type story, but perfect for this generation. That's what I like about it. That there was something different. It's an unconventional cast of characters, and it's a big cast. And that's what I like about it. My big problem is the fucking CGI.
Yeah.
And the cheat.
I think it's and I guess this is what people want to say. I think it's the stereotypes all done to extremes and put onto paper.
Really?
Yeah.
You thought they were that stereotypical.
And then they change it up a bit. Okay, I don't want to be the jock anymore, but I'm still the jock.
I like that.
Well, no, that's the change up. No, that's how they try to make it original, but it's not enough because everybody's still just a caricature. The guy repeating his year. And then what is that Famke, her meek versus sexy I mentioned already, but what is that? What was they alluding to? Did I miss a plot point or a story? Or did I go grab a snack or something about the condoms? Was she accused of having sex with a student or something like that? Or was it just she offended that he offered her Magnum condoms?
I think he was just flirting with her. I think he had the hots for her. I think that part was obvious. Yeah. And that's it. And that she was kind of young, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And she knew him more because he repeated. And that's all I think it is, honestly. But I do agree. It seems like there should have been some type of history about her personally, or some type of history between, what's his name? I forget the character's name. Stan?
Oh, yeah.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
No, Stan was the other guy that had the bitchy girlfriend who became not so bitchy later. But whatever his name is. What the fuck's his name? I got people.
You know who did this better? Class of 1999. Like
I've never seen
in-name sequel to, in-name and same director of Class of 1984, but it's really nothing else. Class of 1999 is a sci-fi horror. You'll hate it now, but I've watched this movie so many times. I loved it. Love it. Just haven't watched it in ages too. It's got the guy that in Nightmare 3 that got his got marionetted out the window.
Yeah,
he's in it. The kid that's in Near Dark, the little guy who ended up writing Final Girls. I think he was one of the writers of Final Girls, the Final Girls. And anyway, like that movie, it's crazy. It's forced, but it's almost like it knows what it wants to be, and it's just fucking bad shit. Now, it's not about aliens per se. It's about android teachers that end up going amok. It's actually a lot of fun. And maybe when I was watching this, I'm like, I wish I was watching that movie. Funny enough, even though different premises, just from a killer teacher standpoint. However, when the monster was revealed, I liked him finding the little thing and then the water, putting it in water and it multiplying. That was cool.
The discovery was cool.
I like when whether the CG was bad, which it was. The big monster itself was actually not too bad.
Agreed.
I actually liked the big monster. I thought that looked pretty cool.
Seemed like it died too quick.
Yeah.
Why would a monster that size?
Yeah.
I guess maybe size shouldn't matter, but I guess the same thing that's going to kill a person.
That's what she said. Sorry, right. I never used that's what she said joke. But you had to shoot it there.
It just seems a little bit awkward that the same amount that would kill the regular one is going to kill the giant queen. you know.
Well,
But
hey,
I don't know.
well,
But I like that what you said. I like that. The hair scene is fucking gross and got me good. That was good shit. When
when he
fucking the
pulls,
teacher.
yeah,
Oh,
that was
dude, when
good.
she comes
That,
in the
that was well.
shower.
You mentioned the
Oof.
practical. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
yeah. She was like, well, I mean, the CG is a sign of its times. Funny enough, it's not great, but it's not like I didn't have. It was like, but
It
it's
stuck out
like
this
the Mist
time.
was worse. The Mist seemed worse to me, and that was
Oh,
way
I
later.
disagree. Wow, really?
The
I
CG in the
think
Mist was way worse.
what? I Wow, okay. I can't disagree more. Holy fuck. I was okay with the fucking CG in the Mist, most of it. Most of it, not all.
Oof.
And it wasn't perfect, but
Yeah.
to this, it really stuck out like a sore thumb this time. Like last time, I guess I didn't notice. Maybe because I have a better TV and everything else, and it's just the presentation now. But it just really kind of stuck out. And I don't like to use that as a critique for the film because it's not the film's fault. You can only do the budget. Obviously, they had budget because that's why this movie had that fucking 90s look that bigger budget movies
Oh,
had. Where
and all the
Strangeland
remakes of way better songs for the soundtrack.
Oh,
Obviously, they had to pay out for those too.
yeah, and see that I don't want to. That makes me sad. That Class of 1999 song. Speaking of Class of 1999, that was the fucking song that when they did the cover of fucking Another Brick in the Wall, which
Yeah.
makes me sad because Lane Staley, when he recorded that, did it separately, and he was in really really bad shape at the time, and he was so fucked up that his fucking by that time in his life his fucking teeth were gone. Not all of them, but
Yeah.
when he does his S's in the song, they had because it would cause because a lack of teeth that they had to do something with the fucking they had to play with it to make it sound a certain way so it wasn't noticeable. And that's what fucking so that song, while at first I thought was great because of the people involved in it and especially fucking Lane being the singer, I should have loved and probably did at the time. But since I've come to find out the circumstances and more about Lane's personal life and what was happening at the time, now when I hear it, it immediately takes me to a fucking a sad, sorry fucking place. So it depresses me to hear that song. I know it's fucked up, but I just feel bad for the guy. But yes, some of the covers were better than others. I hear you, but not everything was a cover. You know, there was different stuff going around. No, so you're making it sound like it's The Craft had a lot of covers, but good ones there too. Good covers there too.
I'm
So
not
I don't know.
anti-cover. It's like just like I'm not anti-remake. I'm more making a joke because I remember it being really high. Like people were going nuts with that when it was coming out too. Oh, did you hear that cover of Another Brick in the Wall 2?
Well, it was a great fucking lineup of people involved in it, so it was a big deal. I remember at the time the news of it, you know.
Yeah.
But here's okay. This is what's stupid about the fucking test scene. Besides the obvious cheat, is that he insists that everybody take the test, and then he says, "Oh, I don't get high on my own supply." He basically guilts everybody into doing it and saying, "No, you have to because of this, and this is a matter of life and death." But because I don't get high on my own supply, I'm not going to do it.
Scarface.
Right. Well, that's the rule. That's to be a dope man, boy, you must qualify. You know, but still. Why would you say that in a situation that's life or death? It's just kind of a fuck. It makes him look guilty, and I guess maybe that's the intent. But quickly it's dissolved because then we see what happens and what goes on, and you know. But
There's one scene when the shit's about to hit the fan, and that the head cheerleader, who's also the head cheerleader is also the fucking photographer for the newspaper. Come the fuck on. Come on. But anyway, she's been exposed, and they have a gun, and the gun's aimed at her, but they can't hit her because she's too busy destroying all the science paraphernalia, all the beakers and setup of this. But that's just a distraction in editing, and for us, the viewer, where there's still a clear shot on her. She's just going, pushing all the stuff away. But it's just the angles that they use and the cutting that they use to make it look this big distraction. But you'd be like, okay, bitch, you're just pushing that stuff off the table. Bang! Done.
Yeah.
But they keep missing her. And then they, whatever. I don't know. I laughed in my head. I laughed out loud there at the movie, not with it. But I'm not saying I hated the movie. It's a 6 out of 10 for me. I just have no interest to go back to see it again. There's some okay stuff, some good stuff, and then a lot of stuff that I didn't like.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of like the movie we're going to talk about next.
I like some of the characters. I like that Elijah Wood's character ended up being pretty cool, having some balls, and fucking when he became the decoy and ran in the bus, and that scene I thought was good. And I question this once again when they come face to face, when the one goes out and meets the teacher and then comes back, the football player, and then he's converted, but he's talking to the other girl and he's like, you should join me. There's no fear or pain or any of that stuff. It's all gone. It's another conversation worth fucking having. If you know that they're going to take over everything and you can either be the fucking prey or the predator, and you know that if you become that prey, you have no fear or no pain anymore, doesn't that seem like the fucking logical choice to go if you think about it? Imagine that.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't think you can defeat everybody, like you assume that this is widespread at that point. Yeah.
Right, and it is. Students and fucking teachers, and that's just in a small shitty town in Ohio. So I don't know if that happened to me.
So they just drive off. They just drive off into the sunset. The movie's not done.
No. Piper Laurie.
Fear's not done.
Piper Laurie. That was weird seeing her because I did not know that was her until the fucking end credits. Like, oh, that's who Piper Laurie was. You know, looking a little different than she did. But yeah, I liked it obviously more than you. I don't. I did come down a little bit though. So I like I said, I was a 9 before. Now I'm an 8.5. But I really dig it. I really do dig it. Yeah. And
it seems like a lot of people do. Again, it's not that I wasn't looking forward to seeing it. Like you said, you called it, you knew it was going to win. I'm like, oh, cool. I hadn't seen it since the theater. I remember liking it. It's a good excuse to revisit. And I was a little surprised.
That's fair. I hear you. But yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, on to our next film from 1998, excuse me, Strangeland, directed by John Pyplow, of course, written by Dee Snider from Twisted Sister fame.
Yeah.
A detective pursues a sadist specializing in body modification rituals who lures teenagers through the internet. Amazingly,
you remember.
I remember when this came out, and I thought Dee Snider directed it too. That's how much his name was all over this thing.
Correct. It used to be called Dee Snider Strangeland. Actually, it is in the credits still too, but now it's not. When you look on the fucking on IMDb and elsewhere, I don't have the physical disc, so I can't say if it says that on it or not.
In fact, this one was really hard to come by. I think maybe you could probably buy it or rent it somewhere, but I actually have to thank someone who had it on their Plex. And I happened to see it because I thought I was going to have to go the rental route, or not even rental, buy it. And I'm like, I'm not going to get this movie in time.
Well, you got to get MB, my man.
Yeah, well, it was on Plex, and I was able to enjoy it. And it's very hard to come by, it seems.
Yeah. No, I guess it is.
I don't think it's actually streaming anywhere. So it's going to be difficult. I don't think it is, to be honest, like for a price, for free or for a price.
I'm going to look it up while you're there. I have the.
But I will say
to the app.
This is another mix mash, man. There's some good.
Oh, it's everywhere here.
Great stuff. There's what really?
In the States, it's on YouTube.
Oh, really? Then I could have gotten it.
It's on YouTube, Apple,
I was just
Amazon.
looking at IMDb here.
In Vudu. Yeah, $4 to fucking rent, $6 to buy. See, it's there. Yeah, go to the Watch Now app if you don't already have it.
Just watch.
Just watch now, I call it. Yeah, the Just Watch app.
Sorry, I was just going by what was shown on IMDb while we were on this page.
Well,
as well. But when I was searching for it, I didn't use that Just Watch app. It looked like it was difficult. It looked like I'd have to buy the DVD, and it was going to be sent out. I was going to be way after we were recording. But anyway, another decent cast, some good stuff. Mixed with it, this is a hodgepodge as well. Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems, I have to admit, is Dee Snider in the role.
What? I thought he's the fucking of the show. He's the best part of it. Wow.
No, I like the internet aspect. I mean, here, 1998, already someone using the internet to lure people through. I thought that was very timely. I thought that was still very early. I liked that. I liked. There's one scene that was fairly well done, even though it's kind of a ripoff of Silence of the Lambs. There's a sequence where they're trying to find the daughter, they've got it down to the house. They think they've got the right house. They go into the house. You think they've got just like Silence of the Lambs, and then they end up finding an old couple screwing, and then they realize they think they might have the right area, because then there's kind of a convenience part where gets sent a voice message and there's a dog barking, and he realizes
that's the problem.
Dog barking.
It's stupid, and I'll tell you why.
But I liked it. They connected it well, but it was just too convenient at that point. And then the fact that he's captured, I'm like, wow, where's this movie going? Because again, this was my first time watch, and I liked the whole rehabilitation avenue that they abandoned it. It's almost like that's
the story, though. That's the point of the movie. But people don't let anybody rehab.
They needed it longer then. They needed the first part, almost the first act shorter. Then they needed the second part longer to then take it to the third part where he goes full crazy, if not more crazy, where it's almost off the charts machismo crazy.
Yeah. No.
Unfortunately. But that I haven't even given you time to talk. I apologize. You interjected that you thought Snyder was the best or best part of it.
Well, if you don't have that character in this movie, it's nowhere near as good. You have to have a fucking fucked up character to carry it, a character with charisma, a whacked out freaking antagonist. It really helps. If you don't have this role, that character, then this just becomes a boring fucking story. He makes it, in my opinion. He makes his performance, I think, is great on both levels. I think he's great at delivering his lines. I like his character. I like the rhetoric that he spews. I'm into that type of shit. I like his look. The shape he was in at this fucking time is crazy.
Well, the look is great. It's the way he delivers his dialogue, which is he wrote.
Didn't like it, huh?
Because it's very wooden.
Wow, I didn't get that.
Yeah, but I like the look.
I guess it was a little subdued, but I guess instead of being completely bombastic, which you would expect somebody like that to be, see, this is what I like about it. I love when a character looks a certain way, but the way they speak is not typical for what you would think. It's kind of like, I don't know. You would expect someone like that to be a little more loud and a little more, but instead, he's like Jake the Snake Roberts was when he was a fucking wrestler, when he was a heel. When he was a bad guy, he would talk like this, and I'm going to tell you this. You know what I mean? Everybody else is screaming, we're going to get you in the ring. And then Jake Roberts was special because he was a badass, and even when he became good, he still had that same gimmick. His delivery of lines is why he's regarded as one of the best talkers in wrestling. He fucking had the psychology of it. And one of the things he did was that he talked on the mic a certain way that goes against, what's the word? Goes against text, goes against, what's the word people use in there? See, my mind is still not better, I tell you. Goes against type. That's the word people use. It goes against type. And when you look at a character like this, you kind of expect him to be a little more, to deliver his lines a little differently. I like the fact that he comes off as intelligent. That's what's good about it.
That's good too. Again, he's played with conventions here, which is what I do like that aspect. I said I like the fact that like the daughter's killed. It's like personal for this guy. Our daughter's captured. Excuse me. It's personal for this detective as well. I think they catch him almost a little too late for the story that they want to tell, unless they made the movie even longer, because then the rehabilitation portion is way too short. But I think they're too worried that they're going to offend horror fans going, what the fuck am I watching here? I wanted this sadistic horror film movie, and now I'm getting this rehabilitation movie, but that's the story like you mentioned already. So you need that almost to be longer so that when he's hunted down and essentially turned back into the monster, that has a little bit more, it resonates more with you, the viewer. And unfortunately, the most wooden character in this movie is Mr. fucking Freddy himself, Robert Englund, who I think is totally just a caricature in this. Maybe wooden is the wrong term, just a caricature. He just seems like insert drunk husband character here. I think, unfortunately, I've said this before, I like him in the Freddy roles, and I like him, and Freddy, let's be honest, Freddy 1 through 4, and then I like him as the Phantom of the Opera, actually, in Dwight H. Little's 1989 version, where essentially he's playing Freddy again, it seems. That's where I like Robert Englund, and as hello in Adventures of Ford Fairlane, And then unfortunately, he's like this to me in all of his other movies, where he's a little bit like, you're like, ugh, he's kind of like not that great.
Really, I liked him. I liked him here. Fuck, I thought he did well in this role. I didn't think it was over the top. I don't think he was a character. I don't think it was too much. He was more like fucking subdued. Like they come out and like, all right, we're gonna have to get this guy. And I guess the idea is very much of a character-driven idea that naturally they're gonna go to fucking mob mentality right away and everything else. And you got this guy who's a bit of a drunk and a bit of an ass. So I do get that, but I mean. Oh, okay, I can't use the craft because you don't like the craft. I was gonna say it's just like anytime you see a drunk fucking guy in a movie that's a little obnoxious. I don't know. Maybe you wanted more because it's Robert Englund, but if it wouldn't have been Robert Englund, it just would have been any other regular actor. Would you have that critique? Or are you zeroing in on it because it's him and you expected more?
Well, you can't help but notice it's him. So that you
expect
a little bit more. So I don't know if I would have had that.
So that's your expectation.
I've mentioned it before. I mean, like that guy that played the drunk dad was useless or whatever. Who knows what my reaction would have been. But it's Robert Englund there. So then you're just that's it. And then it's a little hammed up. Like scene chewing. Is that the term people like to use? It just seemed
they do.
Like I don't know. I thought Linda Cardinelli, whatever her name is, she was good. In it, I thought Mike Gage was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, even that guy that played Lieutenant Christian or Detective Christian, whatever.
Oh,
he was good. He seemed weak. Yeah, I don't know.
You look like Emilio Estevez. That's what I kept thinking on. I kept seeing him every time.
I don't know. He was a bit weak, but there was some good stuff here. That's some really well done sequences mixed with some really poor decisions and some of the editing and some of the story structure. Like I said, so the killer's caught. He's a sadistic killer. He's rehabilitated, but of course society won't accept him. So he's been rehabilitated, and his rehabilitated look. That's why I'm saying T. Snyder, I can't carry this role because I just feel like
he hated that.
Like he's just looking like I'm doing it visually. Unfortunately for the audio portion of this, I'm trying to do the visual look where I'm defeated. Yes, and whatever. And his hair's dyed, and it just he looks ridiculous.
It's medicated.
And whatever, I get it. And then that whole crushed medication, they could have done a bit better. And what difference did it make if his medication was on him and crushed by that car wheel? If he's being fucking strung up by a noose and hung to die, I guess he couldn't come back to medication is I guess what they were getting to.
Right.
Or whatever. But he's reborn as the bad guy. So the medication, he wouldn't want the medication at that point anyway. So to show that whole thing was stupid. And then he comes back as the bad guy. I'm not against that. I do find that they find him pretty easily the second time again. I think he wants to be caught. I think that's the whole point at that point too. But again, I'm not against the idea of the story. I think there's some smart fucking ideas and some smart writing here. But then when you see it all play out, unfortunately, it doesn't really play out well. There's some there's some stuff that I like. I'm not going to deny when he threatens the guy about what type of piercing he's going to do. And he's talking about the penis piercing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was cringing. I'm like, holy fuck. And they're not even showing really anything there. They show a couple of about to be pierced nipples and whatever, but they just show the picture there of what he's planning on doing. You just cringe with it and whatever. So there's some good things being done here. I was expecting, I guess, more. And I guess I was expecting more. One of the best jokes, though, I will say, one of the best visual jokes is when they have the protest crowd. You know exactly what I'm about to say, right?
We're not going to take it?
Yeah. The protest crowd's out there where he's been rehabilitated and they're trying to get the news people come. And there's like one guy saying he's not willing to talk. And he's like, no, I'm going to come out and I'm going to say something and whatever. They have a banner hanging over his fence saying, we're not going to take it. Fucking genius. That was awesome.
For sure. And the news clippings, they're real quick and everything, but D. Snyder made sure that they all he was responsible for them. He goes, he wanted to make it so when the DVD people look that there's continuity. So we fucking spent time doing that, and he hated wearing that cardigan. That was he never felt comfortable in it. That was the worst part of the whole fucking movie for him and everything else. But I'll say this. I really enjoy the first fucking half hour, 40 minutes of leading up to him being caught and the whole thing. Because remember, this is 1990 8. And some girl has to ask another girl what an IM is. So it's the early days. I almost wanted to show it to my daughter to say, hey, look, this is how we were in 98. Yeah. This is what was going on. And people didn't know about chat rooms so much and what's going on. And yes, it was a little nostalgic, but it also was cool to see the way things were at that time and, what happened. And the luring of the predator and how it's cool. And of course you get Amy Smart, my girl, fucking love her. And I saw her in the credits. I was like, oh, Amy Smart's in this too. Man, I love her. But anyway, then she vanishes in the second half. But what are you going to do? She helped the killer get caught.
Yeah. Amy Smart, right?
Yeah. Love her. Yeah. Yes.
Got rid of her.
Yeah. Well, I guess she wasn't needed, but stupid. But now here's the thing. It's an hour and 24-minute movie. It could have been an hour and 40, and it would have accomplished what you wanted. And when I look at it, I wanted more of the rehab. I wanted more of that. It would have made for a better movie. So I am with you, but there's
flashes of good to great in the sense of ideas and whatever, but it doesn't pay off. I'm sorry, I just to build off what you're saying.
No, it's good. I don't like how he got caught because it's stupid. And I'll tell you why it's stupid, especially for someone that's supposed to be smart like this guy is and does everything right to a degree where he can manipulate. But, okay, if you recall.
He wouldn't have recorded.
No. Hold on. He purposely leads the detectives to another place where he's not. Okay? Why the fuck would he lead him to his next door neighbor's house? Why wouldn't you lead him to someplace? Because now what happens, because his dumbass leads him to his next door neighbor's, the guy falls asleep, the next morning wakes up, right? The detective, and gets the fucking IM on this thing, saying, oh, should I call you whatever, detective or something? So he knows that he sent him. Now, he probably didn't anticipate he was still going to be there. So it's a dumb coincidence, but it's a dumber coincidence that the fucking if you're gonna throw the scent off of you, are you gonna send the fucking guy to your next door neighbor's house?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna send them in another fucking town?
The only explanation I can have for that is the technology at the time for the fact that it is internet and through a router and everything like that had to be in close proximity. But then wouldn't the detectives know that too? And then figure, oh, it wasn't them. This is weird. We should probably go check the surrounding houses, which I guess is what he's doing. He's sitting out there. Why else would he be sitting out there?
Well, he crashed out. He was sitting in the driveway, and the guy came over to him and said something. He got in the lot, and he goes, do you want some help? I forgot what he says. Do you want some company? You can do that. And he goes, no. And then he just coincidentally passed out. You know what I'm saying? And fucking because he was disappointed it wasn't his daughter. So he was distraught.
Yeah.
Very convenient. That it would why? Okay, that's very convenient. But the worst part is, if you're going to throw the scent off, like I said, I'm not going to send someone to my next door neighbor if I fucking have some girl in my basement. I'm going to say, I fooled you. Right next door, and he's sending recordings out. Get the fuck out of here. That would not happen, and that's unforgivable. That is unforgivable, and the end is fucking ridiculous because how is that guy going to get away with that? The detective's going to walk into the fucking the Zabalba, which I love that club, by the way. I wish I could go to it nowadays because I would. It's fucking great. But what I'm saying is he's going to lead him there, and the guy's going to say, I'm going to play your game. I know you're going to be somewhere else, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes in, and then he literally fucking burns him to death. How is a cop going to get away with that? It's not going to happen. Sorry. It's a stupid fucking way to do it. They could have written that better. So those are the two things that to me are unforgivable. And like you said, I wish I would have had more time for rehab because yes, it makes it, but it does make a good statement about things like that. And, I get that. But here's another bad part. Robert England makes a point. Robert England makes a point to say, oh, a girl didn't come home, right? Okay, well, she's probably fucking the quarterback or something, or whatever the hell he says, which she was. She was at a hotel getting on, and then she fell asleep. Now, he goes there because he believes that the fucking guy kidnapped his daughter, possibly. He goes in the house, he pounces him, he fucks with him. Not at any time does he look for his daughter. Not at any fucking. He immediately takes them out and kills them. They don't even know if the girl. Wouldn't you be a little more concerned with?
Fucking edited scene. That was another thing, man. And again, I'm interrupted because they literally. this is what I'm saying about breathe. Maybe I didn't say it, and I was thinking it. Talking about letting the rehabilitation part breathe.
Yeah.
They needed to let some scenes breathe too, but I think they're so afraid that they weren't going to deliver on the gory horror aspect that they were so worried about keeping it tight. And again, I complain about certain movies not being long, but this is where you needed it to breathe to have the impact that it needed. And when they went to attack him, like what you're about to say, he's just sitting, like it's a weird shot where they just show up at his window and he's like sitting in the dark room, just like la la la, and he just gets grabbed. It is so poorly done. Why wouldn't they have cut to him living his boring life at home, whether maybe he's painting something to get rid of how his house has been defaced or whatever, doing something. It's so poorly introduced. I keep using the term poorly, but it just happens. And they're there at the window. They grab him and he's like sitting there like in the dark, not doing anything. It was weird. And then they drag him and they take him. And then he happens to see the detective who still seems to be in his fucking car, just camped out there all day. Well, I know why he's doing that, but it's weird, man. I don't know. They needed, like I said, there's a good movie here somewhere, but I think they needed some of the stuff. They needed to let some of the stuff just sit and breathe a little bit to give it the weight that it needed.
Right. I agree, but I like what they do in the beginning.
Yeah.
I like what they do in the beginning. I like the lead up and I like the capture, except the convenience of it. And I like what happens after, when they hang him and he comes back and how he now goes back. That's all fine and where it goes. I dig all that. That's cool. I like the mystery of it. I even like the misdirection, going to the wrong house, and they play it off like Silence of the Lambs style, and they go in there, and then the guy's in the bed. That was all good. I'm with you. That should have breathed. I don't even care so much about the scene. So the guy's sitting there watching TV in the dark. I don't mind that, but I still want more. But I guess if I went back and watched it, maybe I could see what you're talking about, that specific scene. Just seemed to me like they came in and they just fucking fucked them up. And I guess the point was how easy it is.
I just get away with it. Like, what? That was really weirdly done.
And again, why is the detective there?
Well, this is because that's what I'm getting at. They explain it only because he's obsessed. He's worried, just like Robert Englund's character is worried,
that's fair.
He's gonna snap. He attacked his daughter. The daughter's freaking out. She's not cured. She's gonna be living with this horror and has to relive it again. So he's protected it. Like he's going like, I'm making sure this doesn't happen again. This is when he's rehabilitated. And of course, he sees him getting dragged out and he's about to call it in. He's like, fuck it. And then that's what happens, and he recreates. So he essentially allows for the recreation of the monster. But
he's to blame.
Like there's so many other scenes they could have just established, inserted like a couple of extra scenes. Him going to the police officer when they, instead of just camping out in the parking lot driveway or the road for overnight, gone back and said, well, look, like how could he send us to this house here, like. And then they could have had to talk about the technology because, like, look, it's got to be in this proximity. It's got to be here. And then you just have that one insert scene. He goes back and he's walking it, doesn't hear anything. He gets in his car, maybe drives around and then parks. And then that's when the computer pops up with the IM message. It just leads it in a little bit more so it doesn't seem so convenient. I get condensing time here, but this is the example of where it works against the movie. Yeah. And then the rehabilitation, as I've said now ad nauseum, just needed to, instead of being 15-20 minutes, maybe needed that half hour to 100%. Kind of just come out. And again, I could forgive Dee Snider. He wrote the damn movie and he plays the killer part well. I think some of his delivery, his lines, like what does he say when he pops back to life? It is right out of the worst B movie ever.
No.
It's got to be one of his songs, right?
Wait a minute. Hold on. It's a Freddy line, and it's also a line from what do you call it? Used to say, "Fucking Legion of Doom, Road Warriors, what a rush." Which makes
what a rush.
He did give him a rush. He was fucking all about shit. And this time he actually died. He got some, I don't think so. I thought it made perfect sense. He would get a rush from that. I like that. And it's a fucking Freddy thing, too. I think that was all done with intent. There's all these callbacks and little nods to Twisted Sister shit. The fact that he's called Captain Howdy isn't just a reference to fucking The Exorcist, by the way. It's his album, their album, Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry. They had that song, Captain Howdy, Stay Away. from Cap, which they kind of remade a little at the end of the song. They recorded a new Twisted Sister song just for the end credits, and they started doing the Captain Howdy stuff again. So there's that, and there's actually a song on Stay Hungry, which kind of in a way tells the story loosely on what the story of this movie way back in 83 or whatever, when Stay Hungry came out. That was that. And how cool is it? The opening credits, it's him singing. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Oh, hey, what are you doing?
Listen, don't make me any coffee. I'm off the coffee.
You're off the coffee now, huh?
Yeah, I'm on the tea. You have any tea? I can bring my own tea bags if you don't have tea.
Oh, man.
But he can.
No, I guess you have to stop at honestly, I could look around, but I don't know enough about it.
No. I'll bring my own. I got tea bags here. I'll throw 2, 3 in my, couple of them in my jacket pocket.
You finally got off the coffee. Well, I hope you stick with it this time.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. I don't want you to start making the coffee and then I don't drink it, you know?
Oh, no. I'll make it for myself anyway. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll go to Tim's if I have time. Who knows? Then I won't have to make it.
Well, I'll see you at 1 o'clock then. That's about it.
Yeah, big doings today. Big doings.
Oh, yep. Yeah, big doings. I'll see you then.
All right, Dad.
Well, listen,
hang on
a second.
Let's hear it.
I went to deposit some money into the ATM for Francesca.
Okay.
And I didn't go to my bank. I went to the bank in Sheridan in Delaware. So I put the card in and I pressed all the buttons. And I didn't know where to put the money. I said, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, wait. Where do you usually put the money? Don't they have that slot?
Here. Yeah, it was a completely different setup because I usually go right here and in the plaza right here every morning, not every morning. So now I'm sitting there just looking, where the fuck does the money go? Guess what happened? It ate the card up.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's all right. You got a card. Do we need 2 cards?
Well, I'll give it to you and then I'll request another one in case I do need it. But yeah, you're right. We did get 2.
Yeah, so this way, it's only going to be for another year or so, and then I'll give it to her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It ate the card.
But you know what happened? I went into the bank and they says, well, I'm not the card owner. I said, the card owner can go down there and they'll give him the card. But that's way the fuck in Sheridan and Delaware. We don't have to do that. 1 card's good enough.
Yeah. So you still got the money in, or you did not?
Oh, I didn't put the money. I couldn't put the money in. The money's in there at $3,900, you know, but I couldn't put the money. I didn't know where the fuck to put it. It's the first time I went to that bank. So what the fuck? Because over here there's a slot there. It says right there is put the money in. So anyway, just give me the card. That's all.
That's the bottom.
I feel, because a couple times a week, once a week, I go there and put money in.
Does he remember D. Snyder?
It's real comfortable. When I get $5,000 in there, which is pretty close to it, I got about a couple hundred. I got be 4,100 in there this week. And I'll give you the card and you just do what you want with it.
Yeah, that's fair. Wow, that's crazy. That's a Twisted Sister right there, man.
Yeah, look, where the fuck does I even told the guy that didn't. He says, well, we're putting new machines in and this and that. Whatever. I'll just go right here.
Hey, do you remember? Do you remember Twisted Sister, that band, and that guy D. Snyder?
Yes, I do, yes.
What do you know? What do you remember about Twisted Sister?
Just a name, that's it.
Oh, just a name. That's all there is. You remember that guy D. Snyder, the lead singer, the way he looked and all that, or no?
Not at all.
No, that's okay. How about that Guns N' Roses situation? Remember that guy had the horse, and they made him change his name?
My cousin, he named the horse Guns N' Roses, and they forced him to change the name.
Yeah. Well, they sent him a letter?
Yeah, they sent him a letter. They have to change the name. That's our name.
Isn't that something? Wow. Did he save that letter?
I don't know what he did. I haven't seen him in 15 years.
Is he still alive?
I guess so. I haven't heard anything.
I want to see that letter. That's crazy. He could probably fetch money for that. You know?
Well, he probably threw it away. You know, he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you about 1 o'clock. All right, son?
Yeah, we're ready. All right.
No coffee. Bye-bye.
All right, Dad. Bye.
Okay. No coffee. Don't make me coffee. That's how he starts the call.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't planning on that, Dad.
It's always something. I always have it ready for the stress I have to go through for when they arrive, for when he arrives, because he says 1 o'clock. That means 1:45. So now I got to be here. I got to have the pizza ready to go. I make my daughter's pizza because she'll only eat a certain pizza. She won't eat the one we get. So I got to make her pizza, heat up the oven, put the pizza in, get the coffee ready, have it come up so it comes up right when he gets in the door. It's waiting for him, and then get ready and have the game started, the TV plugged in. Because for me to watch TV, I got to plug things in because I don't watch fucking TV unless it's the football game. So I'm running around. The odds of my ass hitting that fucking seat at 1 o'clock for the kickoff of the Bills game, it's like 25%. I'm always fucking. It's out of control. Maybe not this week though, since we're finishing early. So, but that's.
Well, I did. And on that note, yeah, this is a hard movie to rate. I was trying to think of this. I'm like, I like certain things. I didn't like the pace. I didn't like some of the writing and dialogue, but then the ideas were kind of cool. The I'm on board with you. The beginning part was cool, but I'm all over. Like, I feel like I want to give it like a 5 out of 10, but I also want to. Then I feel like no, I liked it a little bit more because there's some good aspects to it. So then I'm right there with The Faculty. Was a 6 out of 10, but I give it a pass, like, because a 5 would mean I have no reaction in a sense to it, and I really didn't hate the movie. I just thought there's so much more potential here that could be there.
Right.
So I got to put it in that kind of. I just call it for me. It's 6 out of 10 is that limbo zone, where I have really, like I said, I have no interest to ever see it again. I even think I put The Craft there or something. I think I just like, I can't hate the movie. I just didn't like it, but. I think there's some, like, this is split. Some people will give it credit for everything we just talked about, and some people think it was just a mess, and that Dee Snider's to blame because his name was all over it. But at least he put his name all over it.
I like the aspects of that whole community and the stuff they talk about it. That one guy in the beginning about the piercings and the body art and everything else, and what they were saying, and about how I like what they're saying about how everything's going into the computer age and technology, and we're keeping it like fucking whatever. We're going back to stuff that was in the caveman days with the, this and that and markings on our bodies and piercings and all that, and what they were saying there. And I like all those effed up scenes, which bothers me when somebody's hanging from hooks in their studio. I saw that live before. I saw fucking. Speaking of Manson, because there's a Manson song in this movie from the first album too. But no, I saw. This is a great concert. It was 9 Inch Nails headlining, Marilyn Manson opening, and before Manson, the Jim Rose Circus. But in the Jim Rose Circus,
I saw the Jim Rose Circus.
Okay, didn't you see people hanging like that shit?
And Mr. What was his Mr.
I don't know. I don't want to think about it. It fucked me up.
He did things that Watson wouldn't even do. You talk about sticking needles. Oh my Lord.
I was fucked up. I might have been on acid at that show. I don't remember. All I know is that the thought fucked me up, and seeing some of the things always does, like sword swallowing bugs me. I think, what if they miss or something? And things like that fuck with my shit. You know what fucks with me? This movie, believe it or not, there's the one scene in the beginning when he has the kidnapped girl, and when they show her mouth and they show his mouth. Right? Her mouth is fucking stitched up with that stuff, right?
Yeah.
His mouth has teeth that are filed down to points. You know that his mouth bothered me and her mouth didn't.
I can see. I know what you mean. Just thinking about it bothered me too. Did you get unintentional laughter? Did you get unintentional laughter because Robert Englund's character doesn't die? He gets wheeled out on a gurney. He gets put into an ambulance. But he's like,
looking around.
He's like, he's like, where the fuck am I being taken? I don't know why.
It was kind of funny.
Instead of being terrified for him, I was laughing my head off because it was just like, where the fuck am I going? And it's just one exposed eye.
It was kind of funny. I didn't laugh out loud, but looking at it at the time, it was kind of funny looking. Yes, I'm like, oh, there he is. I forgot about him. I was like, that's what it was. But yeah, it is a little awkward. I think shit was done to him too, right? Didn't they shave his eyebrow?
He got pierced. That's the other thing. Not everybody. There's actually very little death. Good. I think one person died. He mostly just tortures and leaves. But I don't think he's ever letting them escape per se. He just keeps adding to his sort of collection.
Where's it going to go?
Crazy part. Yeah.
You can't just keep collecting people and not killing them. They're going to leave them all there forever. How are you going to feed them? You know,
I think only one person died though, and that's what he was.
It was an accident.
Sorry about. Yeah,
because she had a bad heart.
Accident. Yeah.
Right, and they didn't know. That back to that. Well, here's the stupidest scene though, which bothered me, was the fucking dance scene with fucking Robert Englund and his wife. How did he not know by the way she was moving that not only could you could see the blood, okay, maybe it's high def, but the way she's moving, nobody, you know what it looked like? Dude, it looked like Art the Clown when he fucking killed the woman in the first one, and he had her
down the hallway.
that awkward moving with the arms and the. You think that she's trying to be sexy?
Right out of the gate, I know. Nothing sexy about it. And it goes on way too long.
How would he not know?
Again, it's too comical. It's almost like,
dude,
borderlines of being too long that you go into the laughing zone of, come on, they're really it's not creepy.
Right.
It's ridiculous now.
I thought it was a game. I thought it was a sexual game that they play, and she had the fake blood on her. And that she was moving that way because it was the fucking, just to show that this guy's sadistic too.
Not only that, but huge fucking D. Snyder is behind her, manipulating her. I thought she was coming in like my neck's slit.
So did I.
But then all of a sudden it's exposed like, ha ha, I'm controlling her. I'm making her do the stupid dance. So, but because it goes on too long, again, like I'm repeating myself, it goes from possibly a great creepy scene to,
like Shelley.
Come on. They killed it. They're unfortunately, it's hard to re-edit this movie Kuno style to make it work, because you can make that scene work better, but then you can't fix like when they grab him to take him to his death and some other things that were weirdly edited. There's just, unfortunately, I just wish maybe another rewrite and maybe some additional scenes, and who knows, maybe some additional scenes exist and they cut it down. I don't have DVD for commentary.
I'm going to see if there's deleted scenes for Strangeland. I'd like to know if they did that and then actually got cut. Here's one. It includes Tony talking with a friend in the kitchen. Well, who knows? Dealings with Sean Clark. Who knows? Maybe there's one or two deleted scenes. I don't know. We don't have the time to get into them. But yeah, that scene, it came off at first like I thought it was going to be something cool like Shelley. Just for a second. And then it turns into fucking Leatherface holding fucking nubbins in fucking Chainsaw 2 in the beginning. I mean, yeah. But awkwardly in the middle, looking like Art the Clown fucking dancing, trying to look fucked up. I'm like, how does this even work?
Nobody behind him. Like,
no.
It is really ridiculous when you think about it. Because he's like, they show him and they make a note of showing how like built up he is. And I'm not talking about he's huge like Hulk Hogan style, but he's muscular and big, and he's holding this girl up, making her, or the wife, making her look like she's dancing, and then, but you don't see him at all. No. And he's like, peekaboo. Afterwards. Ridiculous.
Yeah, you could see her clear as day. Yeah, dude, it was bad. Again, I'm not down the way you are on it, because there's a lot of things that I did like and wanted more of, and I liked his performance, and I liked certain aspects. I just don't. There was just some problems that, man, they could have been fixed. So for me, it's a 7. I go with a 7. Okay. I dug
it. High. You liked it. Like, and again, I'm giving it a generous 6, but I admire some aspects of the movie. It's not just a total shit show or a gong show. I think there was an attempt here to do something good, and I enjoyed certain sequences. Some of it was convenience, though, as we said, but they made it work for what it is. But I wish there's just a little bit more.
Yep, for sure. So that's it. 1998. 1998.
Well, maybe we'll have to have a quick look, but maybe we'll continue the trend for that one episode before the big show. Yeah,
I think 99, to my recollection.
There's Ravenous. We haven't done Ravenous yet. So there's some. I know there's more than just Ravenous. Maybe Ravenous was 2000.
Blair Witch.
Have we haven't done Blair Witch, have we?
No, we have not.
No, Ravenous is 99 as well. So we've got some movies that we can do.
Idle Hands, Sleepy Hollow, The Haunting, Audition, Deep Blue Sea. I've never seen it. Virus.
Oh yeah. We did Serve Echoes. That I know we did.
The Sixth Sense. In Dreams. I like In Dreams, man. I know it'll never get selected.
I saw that in the theater too.
Yeah.
Like I said, I saw everything, man, back in the day. I saw
8mm. 8mm is good shit.
Yeah, that's borderline. That's horror as Seven is horror.
Fair.
Like, you know what I mean? Like which I'm fine with, but I will put it on the list. And yeah, I think we should do that. I mean, why not? I mean, it just seems like a perfect way, and it doesn't seem so Dudley from the early 90s comparatively.
Right. Bats. I've never seen Bats. Is it
Even End of Days.
End of Days. Huh?
One
never saw that.
Never
saw that. Now, Ravenous is the movie everybody loves, and I had to watch it in '99 for summer series, and I just didn't get into it. So it could have been the fucking my viewing.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see though. We'll see what we put out there. Stir of Echoes we've done. Lake Placid I've never seen. So who knows?
I saw that in the theater too.
No
Betty
shit.
White,
well,
Betty White's pretty funny in that.
Oh, right on. Right on. So we'll probably go in that direction unless some other idea strikes us, but we'll see. I just want to get to fucking 200 real bad. I'm real excited about that. I wonder if the Faculty is going to be on the top 200, knowing what you said about it, how everybody loves it. I don't remember. So.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be shocked. There's not 200. There's got to be 200. Like, again, I guess to each their own, but fuck, I'll be shocked.
Well, you said everybody loves it. That's made me think about it. I'm like, well, if everybody's giving it 5s and 4.5s, it may be beloved. It might be getting some votes in there.
Jesus.
So, I legit can't. I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad that I did this so long ago that I don't remember what's on the list now. So now it's like I'll be surprising me a little bit too. So.
We've told everybody, so we're doing 99 next, of course. That's just sort of how it works.
Yeah, it makes
199,
sense.
I guess, is what I meant. And then 200 is going to be divided into 4 shows.
3 shows.
Three shows. So that will be the February shows.
Yes.
Boom, boom, boom. Extravaganza.
Yeah. Gonna be something.
Perfect.
Yeah, gonna be something. So, and we'll have guests and all the other good stuff. So it'll be fun. So, and maybe next show we'll have B's top 22. He has finished one, he said.
Yeah, he didn't see him again coming on the show. He said, "Oh, maybe I'll give it to Dave to read off." I'm like, "Or
yeah,
come on, the motherfucker."
That'd be some shit if he comes out for $199. That'd be cool.
That would be good.
You know,
and welcomed.
Yeah, he could even come on for 200. You don't got to do any prep work for fucking 200.
Yeah.
Just come. And let Dave fucking read numbers in letters to you. There you go. And then react.
Yeah, but we want his list too. So that's the only problem is he's going to be, we want to hear his list and it's already going to be epic enough. Practically no BS because we have to jump into like, what are we, it's 75, 75 and then 50. That's what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of movies to talk.
It is a lot. So, you're correct.
Here we go.
For sure, man. For sure. It might be a 12-hour podcast. But that's why we split up into 3s, you know? So that'd be cool. But yeah, thank you guys. We ended up giving you a decent length show after all. We thought it was going to be a shorty, and it's not. So that's cool. Worked out beautifully. So yeah, thank you all. We love you all. And I don't know. I don't got nothing else. You got something?
No, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Manchichi. Peace out. And all that good stuff.